There we go. I want to welcome everybody to the February Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7:02. I am Deb Travis. I'm the chair of the Traffic and Transportation Committee for Community Board 8. As a community, I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping items for anybody who happens to be new to one of these meetings. So as a community board committee, we loosely follow Robert's Rules of Order. We will be following the agenda that was previously distributed. So if you see a topic, I'm going to let folks in. So we'll be following the agenda that was previously distributed. When we open a topic up to general discussion, I will call on folks who have raised their hand. And if you would like to speak, just please raise your hand. Our goal is to have a good, robust discussion of the agenda items. I don't expect that there's going to be a large crowd, so we should be able to allow people to speak more than once if you'd like. However, if it does get where we do have a lot of folks who want to speak, you may only get to speak once. So just make sure to make it count. If you're on Zoom, in order to raise your hand, you'll use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen, and that's where you raise your hand. If you're on the phone, you use *6 to mute and unmute. It allows you to toggle, and you use *9 to raise your hand. Okay. I'm going to start with.
Deb, can we hire you to do this before every meeting?
I remember going to so many committee meetings where I didn't know what was going on. So I just always feel like it's really important just to let everybody know.
Very good, Deb. I may mimic you myself. I'm getting impressed by this.
We should just record it and then you could just play Deb.
It'll be like when you get on a plane. So I guess I will quickly do roll call for attendance. So Kelly Buford.
Present.
Mary Ellen Gibbs.
Present.
Chris Calhoun.
Good evening, Deb. Present.
Hey, good evening. David Gelman.
Present.
Ed Green.
Present.
Georgia Santiago.
Present.
Hey, Georgia. Good evening.
Hi, hi, dear.
And Osvaldo Jimenez. Not yet. All right. And then do we have other community board members? Camelia, I see you. Anybody else who's on the community board? Karen, I guess you're a CCM, right?
I think I saw Bob Bender.
Oh, Bob Bender.
Yes, I'm here, Deb.
Bob, are you on the board?
Last time I
maybe
checked.
a little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit. All right.
Rosemary, Dan Paternak.
Oh, there's Dan Paternak. I see iPhone Rosemary. Is that Rosemary?
iPhone
Hinton?
Rosemary. That's good. I like that.
Yep.
Oh, and Sylvia.
There's Sylvia. Okay. Anybody else? I have Bob Bender, Dan, Sylvia, Camelia, Karen.
I see.
I see. I see a CCM.
No, he's just a regular person.
Okay.
He's got a heart there.
Yeah.
He's
All
good.
right. Are there any elected officials or representatives of elected officials tonight?
Hi, Amanda Wilson on behalf of Councilman Eric Denowitz.
Hey, Amanda. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay. Any representatives from any agencies? I was not expecting anybody, but just to make sure. Okay, so let's start with just the approval of the minutes of the meeting for January 20th, 2022. They were distributed to committee members ahead of the meeting. Does anybody have any committee, or does anyone on the committee have any changes? Anything? I was contacted by Rosemary, and she wanted to make a change that she was not, she didn't attend the committee that night. I had just erroneously thought that she had spoken in favor of the co-naming for Bill Stone, but she did not. So that's the one correction I need to make. But if there are no objections, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Anybody opposed to the approval of the minutes? Then I think I move to approve the minutes by unanimous consent. And now the chair's report. So the big headline was that there's a new law requiring complete stops that the mayor announced this week. NYPD officers will enforce a new rule that requires all drivers and cyclists to come to a complete stop at crosswalks where there is no traffic light or stop sign. The rule went into effect on January 19th, and the mayor announced it at a press conference on that day. It'll bring a $50 ticket for people who don't come to a complete stop for pedestrians, and drivers will be arrested if they injure a pedestrian in a crosswalk. So those are two big changes. Oh, Laura's here. I'll add her.
Just to be clear, you must come to a full stop if there is somebody in the crosswalk.
If there's
Correct?
somebody in the crosswalk, yeah, exactly. Not only if there's a pedestrian. Essentially, the idea of the rule is to clarify that previously the rule was that you just had to slow down or you had to yield, and it was difficult to enforce it. And so because somebody might slow down and come very close to hitting a pedestrian, but miss them, right? And so what they wanted to do is to clarify the rule, make it so the vehicle had to come to a complete stop if there's a pedestrian anywhere in the crosswalk. So it's a response to the Vision Zero, the increases in deaths last year as part of the Vision Zero program. 268 people were killed in New York City last year, and 121 of them were pedestrians. I see two hands. Is it both related to this?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go with Jody first and then Ed.
So Deb, I thought it also stated that they had to come to that full stop regardless of whether there was a stop sign or a light there. So that would include the intersection at like Palisade and Cape Park where they painted new crosswalks, but there aren't stop signs on Palisade. Is that correct?
It's specifically for intersections where there isn't a stop sign or a traffic light. Exactly.
And then the other thing that I also heard was that it included not just a full stop, but you had to wait until that pedestrian had cleared the crosswalk completely. So you can't now drive, oh, they passed me, drive behind them. You've got to wait until it clears, until the pedestrian is out of the crosswalk.
Oh, interesting. Okay. The coverage that I read, the description of it didn't go into that detail. I read the mayor's press release, but that would make some sense, I guess. I guess it will all be in the enforcement. Is that everything you wanted to add, Jody?
Yeah. I just I had looked at the actual law itself a while back. I think I sent it to the 2727 people.
I got it. Okay.
And then that I just wanted to see if you had heard the same thing or saw the same thing.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that part of it, that you could have, that you actually had to sit there and wait the whole time until they had left the until they had left the crosswalk. I can check though. We can follow up on that just to get the clarity, because that's that's much more specific and would really require waiting longer than most people are going to wait. Ed, do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing sounds a little bit ambiguous to me. So I guess the question would be, has there been any documents or literature released on the specifics of this, just so that, ourselves and also just the average person could get a better idea of what the do's and don'ts of this? Because, to be cynical about it a little bit, it sounds like just another way for the city to generate tickets against motorists. I realize there's a safety element behind this, but I just feel it needs to be clarified more, because just from hearing about it, the little I've heard about it, it seems like the do's and don'ts are very vague. So I don't know. Is there anything any documents we can reference to kind of clarify this, just by going over it and reading?
Legislature passed a new law which gives a woman in Texas not the standard 23 or 24 weeks, but approximately 6 weeks.
RF, that is you.
We're
We're going to mute you.
And that includes in cases of rape
RF?
and incest.
There you go. I think the idea of it was just to make it to be really simple, that you have to actually stop instead of yield. So in every case, my interpretation of it had been that when you would normally have yielded before, now you have to stop, and that if you hit somebody, that you are clear that the driver is clearly in violation. It was like to kind of make it so that they eliminate the gray area where somebody might be nearly missed, or just grazed by a car that was just slowing down. I was just trying to read I've got the press release open here. And it doesn't say anything as specific as what Jody just described. I'm sure the rule though is available online. I'm going to go over to Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen, did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I've heard of this rule before. I mean, it's never been enforced in New York City, but anywhere outside of New York City, wherever there's a crosswalk, if once a pedestrian steps in the street, everybody must stop. It's been a law in the books for a long time anywhere outside of New York City.
Right, you raise a good point. That's totally true. It's totally the way it works out every place else.
Yeah, any other state, a matter of fact, too. Like if you go any other state, you have to stop. You see once a pedestrian steps in the street, no matter what, you got to stop.
Yep, and you see it too when people take any step off into the street, the cars immediately come to a stop, and the drivers are held accountable for any crash. Apparently, there's going to be a DOT is going to have a public awareness campaign called "Stop, Let Them Cross," which that may also help clarify some of it for.
Yeah, because a friend of mine matter of fact, a friend of mine just called me while you were setting up the meeting, saying that on my block on Nedland between 232 and 235, they said they're using it as a speedway, even with the speed bumps. She said someone's gonna get killed. They're not even stopping, just flying right through it. So I'm kind of glad they're putting these implements in, even with lights, they're flying through. It's crazy.
Right, we have a lot of rolling stops here, and so it would have
it's
made a big difference even with Johnson and Capoc and the stop sign, if people actually had to stop.
Yep. Thanks,
for sure. Camelia.
Yes, just wanting to confirm what Jody stated, that the pedestrian must finish crossing the street. And just to recommend to everybody to actually follow DOT on social media. They put out a Facebook that has a picture also, and January 19, and a link to a 3-page PDF explaining this rule with questions and answers. So maybe that's something that it could be shared also on the CB8 social media and everything. It's a three-page. I will email it to you, Debbie, if you want.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great, because then we can always include the link in the newsletter too.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. Please do.
I'm sorry, Deb, I just texted you the excerpt from it.
Okay. What does it say?
I gotta hold on now. I gotta go back to mine.
Was this just the rule itself that you just texted?
Yeah, it says operators to stop for pedestrians and crosswalk.
When any traffic control signal are not in place.
Skip to the last underlined addition.
Such operators of vehicles and operators of bicycles in any lane of travel must stop and remain stopped for pedestrian in a crosswalk until such pedestrian crosses a roadway. So yeah, it would seem to imply that you have to let them get safely all the way across. Okay, thank you so much, Jody, for that.
No problem.
iPhone Rosemary.
Deb, thank you. You just read something. It was my question. This applies not only to motor vehicles, but to bicycles. You just read it. It applies to bicycles too, right?
Yes, it does.
That was my question. And you just, thank you very much. Thank you. That was my question. Thank you.
Yep, totally. Thank you. Handel Abdul Rahim, sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's okay. Good evening, everybody. This is my first meeting, and I appreciate joining. The two questions I have is, one, does the Motor Vehicles Department of Motor Vehicles, are they going to implement it? I think they should implement this in their driving courses and their driving tests. It should be part of the test of a driving. So even when you're driving school and they take out a student driver, that should be implemented in the courses that they take. Because how are we going to tell all these millions of drivers that this is a rule that is being made, that the mayor just made. Some people may follow it, some people may not. That leads me to the next thing is, are they gonna be road maps, like signs, like a stop sign that says slow down for pedestrians in crosswalks? Because I think that would be the only way people will see this. If one, in the driver's test, also in in driving schools and in the DMV, they should put up posters making this a definite something that needs to be done. Because yeah, someone can walk by, like you were stating, and the car can just say, well, I slowed down enough to let them go by, and end up clipping somebody by the back. So I think,
Right.
I think that it should be implemented at the driving schools, and also, please wait till pedestrian crosses crosswalk signs. If we got to put signs up, they got to put signs up in the streets.
Right, yeah, I think that's the purpose of the public awareness campaign. So they'll be doing a big public awareness campaign to make sure everybody knows. And hopefully they'll be doing more education when they find violators initially, as people slowly get used to the rule. Because I'm sure there'll be lots of folks who will break it initially. So, well, cool. Thank you so much. Neva, did you have something? I'll let you be the last person on this, and then we'll move on to the next item in the chair's report.
Yes. When they have to stop, my issue was 238th and Bailey Avenue, where people are making left-hand turns, and I'm in a crosswalk and they're trying to run me down. So they have, because they're trying to beat the traffic coming down the hill a lot of times when they're turning north usually they're coming out of that mall there, and they're making a left-hand turn onto Bailey Avenue.
So this rule won't apply to them, because this specific rule is only for crosswalks that don't have a stop sign or a stop light. But failure to yield is already an existing rule, and that the drivers who aren't yielding to pedestrians in a crosswalk when they're making a turn are already breaking the law.
Okay.
So yeah, I look forward to having you on the call for when we get to 238th Street. Welcome, good to have you. So I'm gonna move on to Orloff Avenue and Cannon Place safety improvement. Back in 2019, we had passed a resolution to request safety improvements at the southern intersection of Cannon Place and Orloff Avenue. DOT reached out to us and has rejected our request. They have, quote, reviewed the location and determined that the location does not fall under any of our priority goals for locations and user types. Additionally, improvements to these intersections present technical challenges that would consume considerable resources that we do not have at this time. Therefore, we will not be working at these locations in the near future. So we've already put in a call to the commissioner, the acting commissioner, to get more details about this and a few other things. So this will definitely be on the list, and we'll get more for the next call. We had a resolution that we recently passed for Stevenson Place, the no parking anytime signage. It has been approved by DOT to be upgraded to no standing anytime on the south side of Stevenson Place along the reservoir wall. A sign order has been issued, and the installation is expected to be completed prior to April 30th of 2022. So that should be done fairly soon. The Johnson Avenue and Capoc traffic signal, that there was a resolution that we passed many months ago that was obviously approved, as we've already discussed. At the last meeting, somebody asked us just kind of an update on when it's going to be installed. We reached out to DOT, and the councilman actually has also reached out to DOT. Neither of us has heard back any updates on that. 2022 New York City Open Street Program. New York City DOT is accepting applications for the New York City Open Street Program for 2022. Through this program, community-based organizations, schools, and groups of businesses can partner with DOT to support outdoor dining, programming, and outdoor recreation for schools. DOT makes sure that the loading, delivery, and emergency access is coordinated. This also now includes play streets and outdoor learning programs, all in the same application. If a group is interested, they would apply directly to DOT on DOT's webpage. and they can find additional details online. If you have trouble finding it, we can reach out to the office and we can send you the link. Also, the MTA has launched an online application for reduced fare Metro cards. You can now go to reducedfare.mta.info. If you are a senior or a person with a qualifying disability, to get your reduced subway and bus fare Metro cards. Previously, interested people had to apply in person by visiting the customer service center in Lower Manhattan. So, or I guess they could do mobile sales or by mail, but all of that pretty onerous. The reduced fare is half the base fare if there are folks out there who are interested or don't know about it. The base fare for subways and local buses is $2.75, so the reduced fare is $1.35. Reduced fares can be used on the subway or on local buses at any time. So if you want to learn more about reduced fares, you can go to new.mta.info/fares/reduced fare, or just reach out to the office and we can help you with that. Ed, you had your hand up. Did you want to talk about
I
that?
just wanted to ask briefly, the first item, the proposed changes that we had about Orloff, the response that you got from them was
yeah.
was a little bit vague. So I just wondered, what was your feeling? Was it mainly due to budgetary reasons, or was it due to some type of technical problems that they had with our request? Or both, perhaps?
I'm very curious to find out. In the new streets plan that they issued like over a month ago, they outline criteria for capital projects and for work they're going to do, and that they say in there that the criteria that they will be using going forward is previous capital spend, so money how much money has already been spent in that neighborhood. What's the word? Is it like an environmental justice zone, essentially? Like both the economic indicators for that neighborhood and racial indicators for that neighborhood. And has there been lack of investment in that neighborhood? And then what was the third thing? Oh, and fatalities and injuries. So kind of straight up Vision Zero stuff. And so those three things would seem to be part of what they're talking about, I think. But I don't know for sure. So we'll kind of find out. I really just want to hear from Keith specifically about like what the reasons are that this intersection isn't a priority, because it's quite wide and it seems like it's a residential neighborhood. It seems like it would be a very good fit for just making it safer.
It would be nice if they could get specific, just because it would, to be honest, save us a lot of time in the future. We wouldn't go chasing, these things take a lot of time to pursue sometimes. And if we knew there were dead ends before we went after them, it might limit our time if we focus on these type of stuff.
Right, no, exactly. Like if it becomes really clear, that's I've been working with Kira to try to get somebody from DOT to come and just talk about this new street plan to the committee and just make a presentation. So I'm hoping that next month we'll be able to have somebody actually just talk about what the criteria will be, and what, if any plans they already have for our community board. So yeah, so I totally agree though. Like if we know up front that X neighborhoods, or if it's an intersection that doesn't have any history of accidents, then that's not going to qualify. Then that's good to know. Mary Ellen, is your hand up from before?
No, it's up from now.
Oh, okay.
I kind of missed the reduced fare.
Yeah.
What is the website again?
Reducedfare.mta.info.
Reduced fare.
Fare, F-A-R-E.
.mta.info,
and it's reduced, REDUCED, reduced fare.
Reduced fare. You said it so fast. Reduced fare.
.mta.
Dot .mta.
Yep. .info. INFO.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, totally. Jody.
I've been doing my usual annual budget trolling, which it came out yesterday, and the mayor did announce expansion of the fares program, which is in addition to the reduced fare program. The reduced fare program is usually for seniors, people on Medicaid, and people with disabilities. The fare programs is income-based and it's 50% off as well. And I don't remember the link. It might be nyc.gov/fare, FAIR, fare fares. But he was putting more money into that program, which is kind of exciting.
That's wonderful.
And then the other thing, I haven't done research on it, but supposedly if you use the Omni, the OMNY, you know, the tap and pay, which they're using that to replace Metro cards, that it's capped now. So once you travel 13 times in a week, the rest of your trips are unlimited, so that you don't have to pay out for the weekly pass. It's like a weekly pass.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I just haven't looked into the Omni program too much yet, but they're expecting to replace Metro cards by 2023 with that program.
Cool.
But that cap is, I think that cap is in effect now.
Is it 7 days from your first tap?
I just saw, I was skimming through budget and financial stuff and I saw that.
I think it's Monday through Sunday.
Okay.
Huh?
Is that
David-
paid Express Plus as well?
David thought that it was a Monday through Sunday, Jody. That's what.
It was supposed to replace a weekly pass, which is, you know, you activate it, you have 7 days of unlimited rides, but you have to shell out the money in advance.
Right.
And the problem is if you are on shifts and don't have a set schedule, a weekly pass could be too much for you because you pay up front, but then you don't use it. So this allows you to, once you hit 13 rides, everything for the rest of the 7 days is free.
Right, it's essentially like a weekly pass on a payment plan.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
pay as you go.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
I thought that was very exciting, and really, especially in the Kingsbridge area and Marble Hill for the people in Community Board 8.
Totally, that's wonderful. Thank you for telling me about that. I'll track it down and get some more info.
It's very interesting what's online that we never hear about.
Well, we're trying to change that. Thank you. Yeah. Rosemary, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I have a question, Deb. You were very good in listing 3 criteria, I think from DOT, as to how they make a judgment whether they'll do work or not. I'm just curious and ask you where we see that in
So Rosemary, you're cut. So Rosemary, you're cutting out really badly. I think what you're asking
hear
me is,
me?
now I can hear you. I think what you were asking me is, where did I find that on that information? Is that what you were asking? Where that
No, or
criteria
where
is?
can we see it? In other words, I'm not challenging you. Where did you see
Oh,
it?
yeah.
But where can we see exactly?
Yeah, so if
exactly.
you
Thank you. Yes.
Google New York City street plan, that's going to be the easiest, or New York City DOT street plan. It's a long document, but it's really interesting. And it's the 5-year plan from DOT that they were required to put together, which they did over the fall through a series of public engagements. And it outlines how they intend to make street improvements and what their priorities are going to be for the next 5 years. And so that's where I got that kind of read on it. But it's a long document, and so it's worthwhile to have DOT come in and actually present on the highlights of it and to talk it through it more clearly. So hopefully the next meeting we can get somebody. And then the last thing I've got is
that sounds like a good. Go ahead.
okay.
Yes, go ahead.
You cut out there. Did you have a question for me?
It was just with, there were 3 criteria, so that I'll find them in the plan, the 3 criteria that you listed.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've got
They'll
the
be in
whole
the
city
plan.
divided,
Okay.
the whole city is divided by tiers. And so when you get to that part of the plan, that's where you know that that's where they're outlining what the capital priorities will be.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Deb, thank you. Okay.
So the last thing is the New York State Bike Census. New York State Energy Research Development Authority, better known as NYSERDA, has launched a statewide bike survey to collect detailed information on bike transportation patterns throughout New York State, with a focus on multimodal transportation. So if you can either Google New York State Bike Census and it will come up, or just contact the board office and we can send you the link for the bike census. All right, so we are now up to the K-Dale livery-based license application. Is there anybody from K-Dale Dispatch?
Yes, here. My name is Cameron Elahi.
Hey there, Cameron, how are you?
I'm all right, guys. How you doing?
Good, thank you. So nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
So I'm going to give you the floor. You're here to request a letter of no objection. Is that the idea? Or
correct. Yes. Just need a letter for the taxi and limousine commission for the business.
So now, are you the new owner of K-Dale Dispatch?
Yes.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about why you need this this application and the application, what you've applied, like kind of what has led up to this?
Okay. I've been working with the previous owner of Kingsdale Car Service for about 30 years. And in order for me to have the license by Taxi and Limousine Commission, they request that I should get a letter from the community. And that's why I'm here.
So now, my understanding was that that you've completed the application and that the TLC had already reviewed it. Is that true?
Correct. I'm not sure, but I did submit all the applications and everything. Yes.
Okay. Because we reached out to them to kind of understand where things were in the process, and that we found out, just as for the committee, that originally when we put this item on the agenda, our understanding was that Mr. Elhe would need a letter of no objection from us in order to complete his application for a livery-based license for his business that he's purchasing, the Kingsdale Dispatch or K-Dale livery service. We have now, he wasn't able to be here at the last meeting in January. And so we reached out to the TLC to make sure we understood deadlines and all of that. We were informed by them that they had changed the process for renewals and that they no longer required a letter of no objection from the community board. However, if they received a letter saying that the community board did object, they would, rescind their license, essentially. So I guess, we just really wanted to have you here to kind of tell us about how your business functions. How many vehicles do you have? How many drivers are affiliated? Why do you have a new address? If you could just give us a little bit of context.
I'm a little nervous.
Don't be nervous at all. You're just among neighbors here at this point. We all live here.
Well, the previous owner moved to 3265 Johnson Avenue, and that's where I take over from him.
How many drivers do you have?
We have about, right now, because of the coronavirus, we have about 5 drivers, 5 cars. And so most of them really not working all the time. And for the parking issue, we have a garage where we park if the driver needs to park, but they're all individually owned. We are just
Where is that garage?
Is 6571 Broadway. It's a gas station.
What's the cross street?
It's 260 and Broadway, 260th and Broadway.
Okay.
And we really, we just the dispatching company, meaning all the drivers own their own cars, and the end of the day, they take the cars with them.
And then how do you dispatch them?
We dispatch from the phone, from the office from Johnson Avenue.
And is that the only way? Is just through the phone?
Yeah, just through the phone, because we still have old system. We haven't computerized it yet.
Right. So when they're parked at the gas station, is that what would be the circumstances that they would need to be parked if they're owned by people in their private cars?
Because there was a TLC requirement at the time that, the more many as if you own any vehicles, you have to have enough cars for them to park. And because we don't own any of the cars, so we just still have it in case overnight or somebody breaks down or anything in the street, so they can park it over there, or we can tow the car there.
So now you say you've worked for K-Dale for 30 years?
Yeah, well, I changed the name from Kingsdale Car Service. It was Kingsdale Dispatch. So now I put it as a K-Dale.
Okay.
But I worked with the previous owner for about 30 years. We used to be Dale. And then he changed the name as a new, it was partnership, and then he became Kingsdale.
So then in what capacity did you work at Kingsdale?
I drove for him, and he wanted to retire, and they gave me the opportunity. And I wish me good luck.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
So are you primarily local, or like what's your range for?
Yeah,
for
mostly in Riverdale, and most Manhattan, Riverdale, mostly Riverdale.
Okay. And then how do people find out about you? Like, do you have how do you advertise?
We really don't advertise at all. We're just over the phone. All people know us locally for past 30 years or so. So they know, word of mouth.
Okay. And then what are your hours of operation?
So far, we have our operation is 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
6 a.m. to 9. And then how many people do you have answering the phone?
Just one person, one dispatcher, and then it's me.
Okay, so 2 people total.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody, just to go to the committee, is there anybody on the committee that has any questions for Mr. Elke? Ed, I see your hand.
Yeah, I don't have any questions for him. I just wanted to state that as a member of the Public Safety Committee for the last 4 years, we have never heard any complaints or that come through the committee about Kingsdale, the business that he's going to acquire. So I just wanted to put that out there. So it hasn't been a problem business that's come up on our radar. So I totally approve of this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's really great. I can also add that we reached out to KRVC, and they said that the Kingsdale had been just a really good service for the community, and that they had never had any issues with them. The 50th precinct has also not had any issues with Kingsdale, and supports this. Rosemary. Rosemary, is your hand up from before?
Yeah, no, it's up now.
Yep, I think we've lost Rosemary, so we'll wait for her to dial back in. Laura, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the board has never received any issues or problems or complaints about Kingsdale ever. That is not this. We have other cab companies that we do get complaints about. So I'm happy to say no problems here. I spoke with the former owner, and he wrote a glowing report about why he sold his business to, he had full confidence that he would do a great job. He would continue the good job in the community. And that's all I wanted to say. It was a ringing endorsement. I think you sent it to the committee
Mhm.
from the previous owner to this owner. And I hope that the business does well. It's a very tough time with Uber and everything else. And to have a local dispatch is very important.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Laura.
Thank you very much.
Mary Ellen.
Hi, I've known and used Kingsdale business for many years. I've been recently using them every morning because I am there are other cab companies that you call them up and it's like, let's make a deal. Like they're always trying to charge you and swindle you in thinking like you're 100 years old that you won't know the difference. But Kingsdale always, they even try to keep their prices down even, but you know what you're getting. Like, you know, if you're local, you pay, it used to be $4.75, which is $5.75, which is understandable, but you always know your price. It's like not haggling. You have courteous drivers and they make sure you get in and out of your car very safely. I know Gary personally for many years. And I definitely, I rode with this gentleman in a cab, and very courteous, very nice. It's a good neighborhood cab company for years. So I think we should endorse something like people from the neighborhood that been here for a long time. And like, especially we have senior citizens a lot take Kingsdale. The place that I'm assigned to as a caregiver, I know that that place definitely uses them for their seniors to travel by cab. So they definitely trust their seniors, you know, as a facility to use them as a cab company. So I totally endorse and back this company. They have very good and very caring drivers. So yes, good luck to you in your new endeavors.
Thank you very much. Thank you for endorsement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Ellen. Yeah, having a good, reliable taxi service, especially for seniors,
Yeah, they don't try
that's
to rip them off,
affordable. Yeah, it's huge, both for on the safety front. I mean, that way you know that your mother, your grandmother, or grandfather are safe, but that also they're not being
Yeah,
ripped
because
off
the other
financially.
cab company, for example, I gave him a $20 bill when I couldn't get Kingsdale in the morning one time. I gave him a $20 bill for a local. And he
Oh
gave me
my
a dollar back. I go, I'm 62, I'm not 102. Oh, he says to me, and he hands me back something different. I go, okay, it's a local call. And that's what they do all the time to people. It's gone on a lot. I mean, I feel sorry for somebody who doesn't know or an elderly person that plays, but Kingsdale never would do that. I mean, they go beyond to help them as seniors. So
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Dan.
Oh, thanks, Deb. Hi, Mr. Elahi. Thanks for coming out tonight. I just wanted to get a clarification. The applications that are in front of the community board or the committee this evening, what are they? What are you specifically applying for?
We applying for a letter from the community board for, for the business, that if community approves it, that we
So
are good, that we are good neighbors and, we okay with the business and,
So when you
and-
say for the business, just so I understand, is one for a livery-based location at your new address?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and the second application, if I read the agenda correctly, is that for a change of ownership?
Correct, yes.
So what's in front of the committee this evening are two items that you're seeking. One, that there's no objection to the change of ownership, and one that there's no objection to the new livery-based location on Johnson Avenue. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So we have that.
Okay.
I just have one real just substantive question regarding the location. It's the off-street parking. How many off-street, and you might have said, and I might have missed it. How many spots did you have at the off-street location?
We have about 5 parking spots right now, but if we need more, that's not a problem.
Okay.
But we only have 5 cars right now. So, and mostly are owned by the driver, so they almost never park in the street or,
Gotcha. It's just to cover the TLC requirement for off-street locations.
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Elahi. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Chris Calhoun.
Based on all these ringing endorsements I've heard this evening, I think I'd like Kamran to give us his phone number. I think I'd like to add that into my cell phone.
I know, right?
Sure. You want my business number or a personal number?
We want the number we can call for a car.
I'm sorry?
The number to call for a car,
for the
car
business.
service. Yeah, the business number.
Sure. It's 718-796-2222.
I think now the commercial's complete.
Okay,
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
David, go ahead.
Well, I'm very proud to work in Riverdale for past about 31 years. And we try to keep the prices very, very low just for the seniors. Because we have a lot of seniors, mostly our 98% of our business, I think, is seniors. And, you know, we try to help them out. And most of the drivers are also here for about 20 years or so.
Very good. David Gelman, I'll have let you be the last word.
Maybe I missed it earlier, but what is meant by the 10 vehicle requirement in the application?
There used to be 10 vehicles, but now it's changed to 5 vehicles by TLC.
All right, well, the application does say 10 vehicle requirement.
Correct. There used to be, but now the requirement is that you have to have 5 vehicles and 1 wheelchair accessible van. So we have 5 vehicles and 1 wheelchair accessible van. So that's their requirement. Or you have to have 10 cars only. So one or the other. So if I have 10 cars, I don't need to have a wheelchair accessible vehicle.
All right, but you said you have 5 cars.
5 and plus 1 wheelchair accessible van.
Okay, I see.
Also, just to be clear, we spoke to Fabian Cancel, the board office did, who's the director of base and business services for the Taxi and Limousine Commission, and they have already approved the application. So all of this information has actually already been reviewed by them and approved. And so they asked us for, like, if we had any objections to do a resolution, to note our objections, and that they would reverse their approval, but that they're actually not requiring anything from us at this point. So if there's no objections, which I think we all are just writing the phone number down so that we can contact you and get trips. So I don't think
Sure.
to Green Infrastructure and welcome you to your new business and to supporting the neighborhood. Thank you so much for coming and telling us all about you.
Oh, thank you very much.
I do have one more question.
Yeah, David, please go.
Since we broached the topic of the area, is it all cash or do you have accounts as well?
Right now we're doing all cash, but if you like to set up a charge account, we can do that on we send you a bill and, personal charge account, no problem.
I see, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. And Mary Ellen, did you have something new that you wanted?
Oh, yeah, and they also accommodate, like my daughter's wedding, I had to fly to Florida, but my flight was early, and they made accommodations for me to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to the airport. So they do.
We will do
They
that.
go out of their way to help you. So
We try to accommodate any which way we can, even late calls, early calls, hospital, somebody need help, even wheelchairs, groceries. Driver will come out, take the groceries, and
they definitely do. They help
thank
like
God, absolutely.
Well, great, thank you. All right, and so in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the Bronx Council of Environmental Quality.
Georgia has a question.
Oh, is that Georgia? Yes, I'm sorry, Georgia, I didn't recognize your number. What's your question?
Question is this: since I live in Marble Hill, does he accommodate Marble Hill?
Yes.
Taxi service.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Yeah. If he accommodates Manhattan, he better accommodate Marble Hill.
Yeah. I mean, we accommodate all New York City. We can pick you up from anywhere. We are basically a Riverdale-based company. We can take you anywhere, and from wherever we take you, and we'll bring you back. It's not a problem. But sometimes we can't just.
Thank you so much.
We can't pick you up from Queens and drop you in Queens. We don't do that unless we have a car available in that area.
His application specifically mentions Riverdale, Spuyten Duyvil, and Marble Hill.
Correct.
Yes, it does. And the number again is 718-796-2222 for anybody who's interested in using his service. So thank you for your time tonight. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for missing earlier appointment.
That's totally fine.
That's my first Zoom call, so that's why it was.
Well, I hope we made it not too painful.
No,
You can miss the Zoom call, just don't miss a pickup.
no, we never actually.
It's a joke, it's a joke.
We never miss a call. If we give you time, we may be late, but we will always show up, even if it's 2 hours late, but we will show up because of the weather or the traffic or any circumstance. But we'll never leave a customer behind. And I can guarantee you that for past 30 years.
All right, thank you so much. That's wonderful. Karen,
Thank
I have given you the ability to share, so I'm gonna let you know before somebody else grabs it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
And you too, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, the Bronx Council of Environmental Quality in the house. The floor is yours, Karen. I can't hear you. Oh, you're muted. Are you speaking?
Oh,
not you, Cameron. I'm talking to Karen Argenti, our next speaker.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh no, it's all good. Karen, you're still muted.
Cameron, you're welcome to stay, but you're also entitled to leave.
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
Good night.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Argenti. I'm with the Bronx Council for Environmental Quality. I'm a member of the E&S committee as a community member for several years. Sometime after I became a member of that committee, actually I was on the committee on and off like back in the 90s. And but anyhow, recently when we were together on the E&S committee, we found that there were a lot of questions concerning water. And so we created a water working group, which is a separate group of people that just dealt with bringing information to the committee on water related issues. I went back to the record, and that was, we established an action plan in 2015, and we had a couple of reports that were verbal, but we also had a report in 2017, and then we just recently had a report to the committee in 2021. Interestingly, the issues are all the same. So I put together this little PowerPoint to explain to you some of the things with green infrastructure and how important it is. And so I'd like to start that. So this is a little project I found on the internet looking for, things about green infrastructure. And so I might come back to this later on, but it's good for many, many, many reasons. It's pretty, it cleans the air, it takes care of the water, it makes the soil productive, it sequesters carbon, it's just does so many different things. And I'll come back to that. So this is basically our agenda for today. I'm going to talk about the problem and how you can tell it's stormwater. And I'm going to take a little break. How do I do this? I wanted to switch. Can you see my screen now? What are you looking? What do you see?
Yeah, I can see agenda problem and how you can tell the stormwater solutions, types of GI, and how you can help advocate it.
Okay. All right. So let me just stop sharing for a second so I can pull up the other section.
And while Karen's doing that, I'll add that I invited the Bronx Council of Environmental Quality to come speak to us because I think that stormwater and DOT's relationship to stormwater is something that we should consider for our capital priorities, and to do a couple of joint priorities with environment and sanitation, both to try to get less water around the Deegan, to kind of reduce the amount of outfalls to the Deegan and to the Bailey Avenue area and to Broadway and to kind of all of our kind of commercial areas. So that's the larger context for why I wanted Karen to give us a little bit more education on the types of green infrastructure and kind of impacts from stormwater.
I'm going to do this kind of fast because we have so many things on this agenda here. But this a section that has pictures of things that are the reason why we need green infrastructure. We have flooding. This is old pictures. This is an old picture. This is not even from Ida. I'm sure you've all seen the pictures from Ida. This is the park. The first one was the Van Hollen Park, the first blue entrance that you come to when you come off of like 230 Bailey Avenue and Van Hollen. And this is the lake when it overflowed one time after a big rainstorm. This is what it looked like when it didn't overflow. And so, you know, you see the same seat there and now it's like overflowing. It ruins the land. This is an area like just south of the lake that just overflowed. This is around Jerome Park Reservoir in a very rainy day. It's not clear because I had to cover my phone because I didn't want it to get wet. I knew it was torrential that day. This is just walking to a meeting and you could see that, that it's just, the land is not absorbing any of the rain that it needs to be absorbing. This is not, that was a big thing. This is the damage that happens on the streets when you have a lot of rain and that it's not taken care of. And you could even see over here that the sidewalk, the curb is a mess. So it's important to find places that show you that there was a problem with rain or erosion. So this is an area, I think, I mean, it's coming from a hill from another place, but this was pretty dry these couple of days. I saw it like 2 days in a row and then I took the picture. I had to report that to the DEP because it's next to Jerome Park Reservoir and they had something leaking. Who knows why? This is an illustration of, we went on a boat ride this past fall, and that is the Henry Hudson Bridge. And those little red lines that I drew are outfalls from the water that flows on the bridge. That water goes into, that water from the bridge with the salt on it and the stuff from the tires and oil and grease, that all goes into our water bodies, which is not a good thing. This is the edge of underneath the Henry Hudson Bridge. The edge is hard. A hard bridge edge like that is not good for the water because when you get a big wave or a wake, which is when a big boat comes by, it hits that and pounces back, makes the water warm, which you don't want that to happen. And it also like it chews up all of its energy. It's better to put in a living shoreline, which is part of green infrastructure. I may have a picture of that. So there's another bridge. We got plenty of bridges that, you know, do the same thing. This is an illustration of storm water and the rain is coming down and you can see it here. It's not, it can't get into the drain, first of all, because there's tree leaves. But the other reason is that it might be like overflowing and it just keeps going down this hill. So it's supposed to come right in here. It's not tailored right. That's in a park. And we have some park. This picture is, let me see if I can zoom into this. I don't know. Yeah, this is an outfall. I'll talk about that later. This is the Spuyten Duyvil station. And this outfall is here. And I will show you what this outfall represents. So for every outfall that's on the river, they don't all look like that. They're not all way above the water like that. But every outfall that's on the river, it represents an area up in the land for an outfall that happens when either there's too much rain or there's there's too much rain, so the treatment plant overflows and they have to stop the valve and everything goes into the river. Not just the water from the rain, but everything that's in the combined sewer overflow. So combined sewer overflow is that it takes your sewage and your runoff at the same time. There's the outfall again. Okay, so here's the little map. So this map shows you, this is the really big one, 056, which goes into the Harlem River over here. It's giant. I'll show you later on what that's all about. This little, I call this the boot. This is the boot. Here's the little dot of the outfall that we just saw. It's the boot. It's all these people that live here that flush their toilet. That's what it is. Over here is, just for perspective, 2727. And I believe this is 230th Street. It's very small. You could walk the whole boot and get a real idea of what's going on. And there it is again, the outfall. This is some land that's eroding. It's I think it's along the edges of the Henry Hudson Park. And you can see that the sidewalk here is completely corroded. That's from runoff. And here's another thing that happens to the sidewalk. Like I tried to do a lot of streets for you guys because you're transportation. So this is, you know, it's good that they have a piece of metal here, but there is no curb really. This is a beautiful picture of the lake with the swans and some nice lilies, but over here is a little bit of duckweed. Not bad, and this is actually garbage. Not bad, but not really what you'd want to see on the lake. That all happens because of stormwater runoff from the Henry Hudson Parkway, the Major Deegan, the Marshalloo Parkway, and the sawmill. Now this guy is really had a little sad face over there. This guy is really sitting here like for hours giving the food to these birds, which is very nice, but not healthy for us or the lake. And this is a better way of looking at the water at Van Cortlandt Park. And this is runoff going into the lake, and you can see that over here where the geese are, where not the geese, yeah, the geese, that the runoff, between the runoff and the geese, you got a problem going on here. This is at Chandler Field. I don't know if everybody knows where that is. It's on the other side of the Van Cortlandt Park. And this is, when you see something like this is erosion. And this little white stuff next to the waters, to the edge of the road, that also indicates erosion. It's important to be able to see these things because it's never going to get reported. These things, all these things that I've highlighted, they're all erosion. This is my erosion file. This is over by Van Cortlandt Park at Van Cortlandt Avenue South. And you can't even see the curb here. The tree is, I don't know how the tree's living, but anyhow, it's all a mess on the street. This is the sidewalk. It's not, this is the sidewalk.
One question about this as we're looking at some of these, and here's, I know that's 2727, is would it make sense to have as a budget priority then just identifying some places where curb needs to be replaced?
Yeah, I don't know if they
it
do
seems
it.
to me like just straight up curb replacement that's needed, particularly like I think this is in front of a park, it looks like. Is this in
Yeah.
front of Henry Hudson Park?
No, this is in front of Van Cortlandt. This is the same thing. It's on Van Cortlandt.
Is this Van Cortlandt Park South?
Yeah, have them located together. This is like outside, like where by Amalgamated, where they did the hilltop. So even though we did this hilltop project, which I didn't even reference in here, we have this whole area of by Amalgamated that we're going to take care of in terms of green infrastructure. We still didn't talk to the DOT about doing this sidewalk, which is very bad. And it's not only, this is the side that's on the park. I'm going to show you what they did to the other side that Amalgamated did on their own, which is a brilliant idea and which is probably what needs to be done here. I mean, so like
David Gelman has his hand up. David, do you want to ask Karen about this?
Yeah, well, Karen, could you go back to your slide about what you're calling the boot, which is actually right around.
I will
the
go
area?
back. I will go back after when I get to my PowerPoint. These are just my.
That's fine. That's fine. No problem.
Sorry about that.
Right. Yeah. So so I'm just trying to get through the pictures so that everybody can identify the problem. Like it's hard for us to ask for a green infrastructure if we don't know why we are asking for it. So I'm trying to get identifying the problem thing first. Then I'm going to talk about solutions, and then I'm going to talk about what we can do. So can I keep going?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so this is a little bit of erosion, not so bad. This is on the Amalgamated side of the street. But they can't grow anything around the tree. Of course, we're in the middle of construction, which is another problem. This is the park side, and you could see over here that, I mean, this tree is kind of like even crooked, but the sidewalk is just a mess. And I mean, they have to know that. Now, this is what Amalgamated did. I don't know why this is out of focus, but the year before, this was all a mess. The water was cascading down here because it is steep. There's no question that it's a steep hill, but this is what Amalgamated did. They put some nice vegetation in there, and in between, they put some Belgian blocks as a, you know, a terracing thing. You could put wood, you could put a sock. There's a thing called a sock. This is, see how pretty that looks? This is an area, there's nothing wrong with it. We're gonna try to do work with, that one of them is Paul Mankiewicz and the other one is John McLaughlin from the DEP. And over here, we're gonna do some kind of special thing along the edge of the land to make it more productive so that the grass can grow a little bit out into the water and start cleaning the water, because that's also building a living shoreline, a natural living shoreline is a way to clean the water, to start cleaning the water. Okay, so this is along, it's hard to tell where it is. This is along the Putnam Trail. This is like the third blue bridge that you walk up, and these are what they call socks, stormwater socks. They're big, thick things, and they're stuffed with, sometimes they're stuffed with compost, sometimes they're stuffed with, who knows what they're stuffed with. Anyhow, they stay there, and they have like, I'll have another picture. They have like big metal things that hold them in. They're holding back the land, but it didn't really matter in this case because the water was coming down here and going straight into the lake. Now, I would suspect, because the other side doesn't look like this, that the fishermen took away this part, this little section here. Because they were always fishing there. See, you see the stakes? Here's the stakes that are in it. This is on the other side of the bridge. And this is to hold back the runoff from here. And hopefully they would have planted here, doesn't look like they did, but they would have planted in front of it and on this side of it to make sure that it held. But I guess they ran out of money and they had to leave it to the Alliance to take care of. So I think that's the end of my pictures. Now let me just stop sharing and go back to the other thing. Where is it? Okay. Find anything. Screen share. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So that's our problem. We talked about flooding, erosion. We talked a little bit about a watershed, downspouts. I showed you that. Waterfront hardening, bridge runoff, outfalls, street erosion, and nutrient pollution, which was the geese and runoff. This is what we call, and I have a piece of paper that Deb can send to you, which describes some of the things that we talked about, and I have a link. This link is there. This is Open Water Atlas, Open Sewer Atlas. This is our where we are now. We're actually here. This is Community Board 8. Here's the Jerome Park Reservoir, and here's the Harlem River. Marble Hills over here. And this is the outfall that I was talking about. Here's the boot, David. And this is the big one, which is 056, which comes into where the Tibbetts Brook. So you can see Tibbetts Brook and the lake and everything is gigantic. I'm going to tell you exactly how big it is in a minute. But here's the little boot that goes into here, into the outfall that I showed you. But each one of these, we call this the big one. This is the biggest one in the city. We call this one here the long and skinny. And oh, here's the long and skinny. It goes from Marshall Parkway to the end of the Bronx over here. So that's pretty wild. I mean, we think that originally it was from Brook Park, the brook from Brook Park. So here it is again. Here is the little boot, and that boot is, no, this is one of 056. 056 is 5 million gallons of water estimated per day. So that's how much water everybody drinks. That's really how they give you the bill. So it's a DEP thing. It's 2,000 acres. It's got 63,000 people on it. I can send, Debbie, I'll send you this stuff. And the estimated stormwater runoff in a 1-inch storm in millions of gallons is 57 million gallons in a 1-inch storm. So the next one will be the boot. Here's the boot. The boot is 076. It's 125 acres. It's 3,000 people. And the estimated water consumption is 240,000. And they have 3 million gallons of water in a 1-inch storm. So here's 57 million, here's 3 million. So this little outfall that sticks up out into the water, it's all this area. David, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. What would you, if I heard you correctly, you said that in that boot, that pipe essentially was the toilets of those apartment buildings. Now, about 10 or 12 years ago, at the northern edge of that so-called boot, it was discovered that the old houses there on Seneca Place, which is sort of an extension of 230th Street, that they were dumping straight into the Hudson River, and they were made to by DEP. They were forced to tie into the sewer on Palisade Avenue.
Right.
But I believe all of the apartments along Capac Street and Palisade Avenue all are part of the sanitary sewer system. Now, whether the street water drainage overflow goes out that pipe, I don't know. But I don't believe that the sanitary sewage goes out that pipe.
You mean the Riverdale, you mean this, the private sewer system?
No, he's
actually,
talking about the city sewer.
The city sewer along Palisade Avenue, Independence Avenue, Capac Street.
So they're all tied into that, everything is tied into that pipe.
So Karen, maybe this is a good moment to explain exactly how combined sewer overflow works. Because that's really what you're talking about is what
I
the
don't have a
difference.
I don't have a picture to describe that, but so this is going to be the sewage from your toilet. And this is going to be the sewage from the street. In the combined sewer areas, they're together in the same pipe.
And they both go to the filtration plant.
And they
during
both go
normal
to the
times.
filtration plant. We
Right.
clean clean water and we clean dirty water.
Correct.
If it gets to be a lot, usually there's about 2 times the amount of dirty water, let's say dirty water, 2 times the amount of dirty water room for the clean water. But the problem is that there's times when we get spurts of rain, like,
Yes.
and that ends up being too much. It's more than 2 times the dirty water. And when that happens, they close the valve altogether. They close the valve and it can only go in one place, and that's into the river.
Yeah, it's the way that they protect the filtration plant from being inundated by more capacity of water to clean than it would have, is they redirect the water. Some of the water goes out, or all of the water out into the river, and it's illegal. That's the combined sewer overflows are supposed to be being removed and eliminated. That's the whole impetus for the Tibbetts Brook daylighting, is that
Right,
they
and I
have to
was
get
well-
this rainwater out of there so they can expand capacity and remove the combined sewer overflow. That's right, Karen?
Yes. Right.
I was well aware of that for the
Yeah.
Tibbetts and Broadway. I am very surprised to hear this, that the effluent from the residences on Palisade, Capac, Independence, et cetera, are via CSO flowing into the Spite and Dival.
I'm
That's
just trying to
complete
give you
news
a
to me.
picture. I'm just trying to give you a picture, David, of all of the complications and the issues concerning green infrastructure, which can take care of this problem. And so what we need to do is we need to be investigators so that we can advocate adequately to our representatives and the agencies about how important this is, because we really want to have the promise of the Clean Water Act from like 50 years ago to be to give us clean water, and we're still not there. And so
Yeah. And
I understand that,
and
but are
within
you
the
saying
framework,
it's,
within the
are you
framework
saying that
of
it's
the,
occurring now or that it's
Yes,
possible?
may I clarify for you, David?
yes, please, Jody,
So-
go.
So since the Friends of Spite and Dieval have been hand picking trash off that shoreline at that pipe, that is actually how I got involved in composting. Yes, that is what a combined sewer outfall is. I can tell you that it is untreated sewage. The things that you flush down your toilet are what is on that shoreline. And if you would like to come out in a very hard rainstorm, once it hits about a total of 1.65 inches total, you will hear the gate. There's a weir in the parking lot. I can hear it from my apartment when it clinks open. And that is what releases the water. So it doesn't go to the sewage treatment plant, but it comes right out that gate, under the parking lot, under the tracks, into the pipe, straight into the river. And it is rainwater and untreated, what you put down your toilet, your drain, your tub, your whatever. And that's
Untreated
why,
sewage.
yes, that's
Including
why Deb
sewage,
said it.
right.
That's why Deb said it's illegal. The city is under a federal consent decree that we're getting crazy fines because we're not supposed to be dumping untreated sewage into the water bodies. And that's why green infrastructure is so important. That's why pulling Tibbetts Brook out of the pipes is so important.
I already acknowledged Tibbetts. I'm just talking about this boot area, which is complete news to me.
Yeah,
It
and
is
so, and
every
David,
pipe, it's
and also
every
just
pipe
within
that
the,
Karen showed you. It's
Yeah.
every pipe that Karen showed you does this.
yeah,
there's
within the traffic and transportation kind of framing, it's really two interests for us. One is that all of this water is getting collected primarily on the streets and it's going into the catch basins. And so anything that we can do to kind of bring DOT's awareness and commitment to putting green infrastructure into the design of the streets to catch this water so it doesn't go into the catch basins, but instead goes into planting beds and things that Karen will go into in a moment. That's the first piece. The second piece is that, as we saw with Cape and Johnson and with the Deegan, or Cape and Palisade and the Deegan, that when you get over 1.75 inches of rain, this is just a 1-inch rainstorm. When you get to the 2-inch rainstorms, then the streets back up. It can't even get out the pipe. There's so much water.
Not enough room.
And that's when we see the flooding. As the water starts to go down Van Cortlandt Avenue West or down Heath or down Albany Crescent, and they all come down to Bailey and then to the Deegan.
Or any place where there's a step street, because it's so, that's where we're gonna have the big thing, you know? And you see this line going straight across? That's where it usually goes when it's just right on the line. But if it's not, this is what you call an interceptor thing. So all the pipes coming down, I don't know if I have the whole thing, all the pipes coming down the Hudson and all the pipes over here are all going down to Ward's Island. So not only do we do that, but this is one of these pipes that we have industry, and all industry did was they just said, well, what are we going to do with all this product that we have after we divide things or after we dig up, to get our copper, and you use all this water and you make it dirty and it looks like this. Let's just throw it in the nearest water body. And so that's what they did. And that's not right either. Here's, this is a picture of the level of imperviousness in the city of New York. So I can see it. There's a chart here that tells you the peach is, this is the Bronx. We happen to be the best in terms of imperviousness. We have more imperviousness than all the other counties, except for Staten Island, but they don't count. And this tells you where it is. This is the percentage in the Bronx. The DEP has this impervious cover thing, and it's a little bit, it's a couple of years old. They might have come a little bit further, but they're looking at it. Imperviousness means that water can't go down into the ground and where it belongs to take care of the groundwater and make the soil more productive. And so the more imperviousness that you have, like in Manhattan, say, over here, the more impervious you have, the more water that's going into the sewers. Now, where are the sewers? They're in the ground. We can't make those sewers bigger. We can't have a sewer project that makes the sewers big enough to take up all the water that we are now generating because we just keep building, building, building. This is what we're stuck with. So we're at, 57% impervious. Just to, as an illustration of what that number means, if you're 10% impervious, if your land is 10% impervious, you are already putting your water body into a very tenuous situation. The water is not going to be clean. It's not going to have the things that you need. And in fact, some of the big scientists say that it really is 5% impervious is a stressor on a water body. So look at what we did. Okay, it's not going anywhere. What happened? Okay. So here's the flooding pictures, in case anybody didn't see them. This is Hutchinson River. This is some people doing some monitoring. This is a fake living shoreline that they put in, place for the fish to go in and out. Okay, and so now we're up to our solutions. And I'm going to talk to you about, I did you saw the stormwater socks. We have finding sites, home mini thing. We have this green infrastructure, do-it-yourselfers, native plants, native-based plants, insects, ecosystem services, engineering with nature, wetlands, living shorelines, roof garden, rain gardens, rain barrels, advocates. So here's rain gardens. The water comes down the street and it goes into a big garden. It's very nice. Over here, the water they plant native plants so that they can make sure that here's where the water goes in. It goes in here so that they are, the thing about native plant is it's used to the neighborhood. And when it's used to the neighborhood where it is, it has the right amount of rain and that you need for it. You don't have to go out and water it. So you save on water and you also have these beautiful native plants. There's a bunch of insects that help with green infrastructure. If you have flowers, like a pollinator garden, you can attract butterflies and ladybugs. And those are all very good creatures to help us, get clean air and have the soil being good. Now, this is a very interesting thing. Why native plants? Well, this is grass. So you see grass, the root of grass is like at this yellow line. The root of all these other plants, which are native, are long. The longer the root, the more water gets taken down into the root, down to the ground. And the reason why that's important is the way that nature in a native area takes care of putting water into our water bodies is down into the ground, and then it meanders to the water body from the bottom. That's called the base flow. And what we're doing now is we're clogging up the base flow, the water, because it's not going any place but over the land and into the water from the top with all the garbage and the oil and whatever else is there. And we're getting nothing in the ground. It's not taking care of the ground. It's not taking care of the clean water, and it's dirty water going over into our water bodies. So the more native plants we use, the better off we are. And they happen to be very pretty. So, and the wetlands also do a very good job of taking care of how we take care of things. And they're very able to, if anybody has walked in Van Cortlandt Park and looked at those wetlands, they have gone through such torture. It's just a miracle that they are all still there. And there's 58 acres of them, which is just a beauty to behold. And they are doing a marvelous job of taking care of the horrible pollution that they have every single day from those 4 highways and whatever comes from Westchester County. And it's just a miracle, and that's what some of the work that a wetland does. This is a green roof that I worked on St. Simon's Dock. The roof, we built this roof garden. It was very nice. The children it was on top of the school. The children would come up and they would plant. Eventually they stopped planting flowers and they planted vegetables. That was much nicer for them. And then they ate the fruit and they loved that. This is here, green infrastructure, which would be a enhanced tree pit. Here's a tree. The Parks Department planted this tree, and I worked with the Gaia Institute at that time, and we had them put this, lower the curb, and so the water came down the street. This is in the South Bronx, and meandered through the native plants. Here it is again. This is the same. It's just a different angle.
So Karen, are these enhanced tree pits? These are DOT, right? Or are these?
No, we did this with, this was a demo. It was done in 2011. And the Parks Department plants the trees.
Right. Parks Department does the trees, but could it be a DOT request for the
DOT could do a tree pit, and the good thing about this is, like, usually if you look at tree pit, years ago the tree pits were bigger because the whole like apron of the curb was a garden of some sort, but we did away with that for some reason. And so now the trees are like in a little square, like 3 by 3. These are like 5 by 7 or 9. So there was a lot of area to plant gardens, native plants. We had a lot of fun with the people in the neighborhood because they just loved it. In the South Bronx. This is Tibbetts Brook. One day we'll have a stream there. This is porous pavement. I met Jody there in Philly. We were on a trip and with the Soil and Water District. So here's a rain barrel. You don't have to attach it to a building. You can just leave it there and it collects rain. And this is a porous pavement that some people put in an area where they were, it's like a community center. And so it worked very nicely. It was in downtown Philly. Now, how can you help? So we talked about mostly all these words here. This is the native plants. Everybody says we don't like native plants because native plants are not pretty. Well, look, I'm just going to show you some native plants, and they're just as pretty as anything else. And you get a lot of nice, pretty butterflies, like this very, very nice butterfly. Here's some more. I tried to make the plants big so everybody could see them. And they also have long roots, so they take the water down and they keep the soil good, and that's what we need. And here's some more native plants. They're just beautiful. And these are all from pictures in Staten Island. We'd like to have our own native plant nursery here. I'm trying to get it, so that the Bronx can be equal with everybody else. And this is some more native plants. And now these are the different types of, this is stuff from the DEP. So these are the different types of things that you can do. You can build things, green infrastructure that does infiltration. So that means you build a thing and it goes down into the ground. It's not a concrete bottom. Then there's evapotranspiration, where it can't go down into the ground, but you hold it for a little while so that it can, when it stops raining and gets hot, it will evapotranspire up into the tree or what the flowers or the garden or whatever you have. And then there's one where you can take it and reuse it for whatever. Maybe you want to water another garden someplace, so you can build it that way. It's not a lot of that. And then there's one that does filtration. So you put a medium in so that it can go in and it comes out at the bottom. And then there's detention, which basically is really hard. It's like where you hold it in a big basin and you wait for it to stop raining, and then eventually it goes away. Detention is not a good thing. And the DEP came up with this area of, we have a whole new stormwater regs. We have a brand new set of stormwater regulations that have been unified. And so they designated which ones are very good. So the primary goal is these two things, retention and vegetated. So vegetated, I'm going to show you what's a biodetention basin, what's a rain garden, what's a green roof, surface retention, and permeable pavers. I couldn't show you everything because I didn't know how much time I had. We're lucky the rule, the stormwater rule is now in effect. It became effective February 15th. And right now there are certain rules. Everybody who builds something over 20,000 square feet needs to apply and do all the green infrastructure. I mean, we're lucky to get them to put a tree in, which of course, by the way, the best green infrastructure that you could do is plant a tree. Not a little stick like this, but you need a real tree, you know. I got these drawings. This is a vegetated bioretention overflow structure. It's I did some calculations on the side, and if you decide to put trees in, you have to do something different because you need more soil from it. So this is probably like about 3 to 4 feet deep.
When it says outlet to drain, is that to the city sewer or
That would
is?
go to the sewer, so to the, not to the sewer, but the catch basin.
Mhm.
So so this is what. I don't know
So
what, I don't know what.
What's the purpose then? Is
Yeah,
it?
I don't
if
know
it's
what the
catching-
DOT is talking about, but this is the first thing. They find this to be good, but it has all this stuff at the bottom of it. It's not just throwing a bunch of plants in. We'll get
Right.
to throwing a bunch of plants in. This is a tree. And so I determined, looked at these numbers here, and I'm sure they have it someplace else. Here's the one that we built in Stratford Avenue. And I determined that it's like 3 feet deep, the tree. And
I
it has
see.
an outlet to the drain too.
Right, so it's a suspenders and belt situation where you've got all this dirt and soil catching water, but then in the event that there was more than it could handle, there's a place for it to go.
Right, so here's this, the water's coming in here and then it goes out here. Now, when we built ours, we put one coming in here and one going out, one going out here. So we made an outfall here and outfall here. And it was very slight slope, some sort of like this. And the bottom was filled with recycled glass aggregate, which there's, interestingly enough, in the recycling business with the bottles, there is a certain number or color of a bottle that can't be used in any other place. I don't know if it was a beer bottle or whatever, but there's lots of it. And they can make it into any size that you need, and you could put it into the bottom as a cistern sort of, and it has all these different sides, and so it absorbs all the water and it keeps it there for a while until it goes into the roots and goes up into the tree.
So Karen, I see it says in the bottom, private on-street green infrastructure. So are these plans that can only be that can only be done by private entities, or are these the types of treatments that we could say, to DOT, like that we would like to study for, rain gardens and bioretention areas along a corridor?
Yes, we could use this for us. I'm thinking that this is from the manual, and I think they made the manual up for people who were building, contractors. And they're mostly doing most of the work on the right of way as it is. And so if we want to get the Parks Department, or we want to get the DOT to do stuff, then we have to, say, well, some of this you have to get your hands on and you have to do. Now, just so you know, you had written down green streets. So the DOT wasn't happy to take green streets and make them into gardens. So they were happy to give it over to the Parks Department, like 20 years ago, because they don't want to take care of these things. But, that's a different story. Maintenance is really important, and we can talk about that at another time because we don't have.
Karen,
Yes.
just a question. Who built the rain garden that is on Riverdale Avenue at 235th Street?
Parks Department built that.
So that was that was a big concrete median that was broken up. You can see actually some of the things that Karen mentioned. You can see the depressed curb where the water goes in. They have grates. They divert it back into the catch basin in case there's more water than the garden can hold. So if you really want to see one in our community district, go up Riverdale Avenue to, it looks like a sitting area with plants in it, but if you look really close, you'll see the drains and the pipes in there too.
Is that the one at Greystone?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where it is. Grand
Right
Stone
next
is one
to
of the
popcorn,
streets.
right next to
Right.
Popcorn Paws.
Yes, right across the street from there. Yep.
Okay.
So now we're getting it. So I'm calling this my area of soak up the rain, which is what
It's actually Fieldston Road.
yeah. So that's what we want to do is we want to soak up the rain as much as we can. And so these are the things we do. So this is a green roof, which I showed you the one at St. Simon's Dock. And you have to have like room to walk and stuff like that. But the green roof is like 6 to 12 inches like deep. So you very rarely put a tree up on a green roof because you're worried about the roots going into the roof, you know. But so you cover it with like almost a half of a barrier, a roof barrier, and then you put like some kind of lightweight soil on it. This is on top of the roofs. They have these things, so you have to make a cover on it so that it doesn't catch all the mulch.
Soil.
And well, the soil pretty much stays where it is, but it's the mulch. And this is subsurface retention chambers. I'm just going to say the DEP has started doing these in places that they can't really put a green infrastructure. So like bus stops, everybody wants to stand on a bus stop. You're not going to put, green infrastructure there, but they consider this green infrastructure. It qualifies for, somebody building a new building, and they cover it with porous concrete, and all that water goes down into the chambers and then evaporates out or then gets discharged into the pipe. I saw it. I have pictures of it. I could have put them in, but I forgot.
Okay. I think Mary Ellen had a question. Mary Ellen, did you want to?
Yeah, I was, it was, excuse me, I have a headache. We had like some kind of weird fire in my building tonight. It was going back with, when David was asking about the sewage going into the Hudson River. I remember that because we used to actually, as kids, my brother and his friends, we used to go over there, and I remember that pipe going out into the Hudson River, and we're kids, so we used to laugh at all the sewage going in there. But that was like really insane. Like when you think about all that sewage, and it used to come from all the buildings that we lived there on Palisade Avenue, it's all dumped out into the Hudson River. It's gotten like 100 times better. It's like a lot clearer. I guess they don't dump as much as they used to, because they used to dump a lot into there. And my other thought, when you started going forward with the long roots being planted, that was always my thing that I mentioned over many of the meetings that we've had because of the drain water and everything. I said we need to put more trees and more things to absorb all this drainage, this stormwater, and those long rooted things. They would do good on Palisade Avenue and K-Park Street because of those things that they built over there. I mean, we used to have so much greenage right there on those curves there. There used to be a lot of grass and a lot of trees. And I noticed more and more they're disappearing and more cement is showing up.
So it's very important that, when you talk to the DOT or anybody else, that you really have to impress upon them.
Oh, I definitely did that.
Native plants.
Yes, I did say that.
But native plants.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Somebody says they're not good looking, that they're wrong. That's why I put so many of them in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so then the soak up the rain is like an EPA kind of thing, and I remembered it, but I know that I've watched a bunch of presentations, and I didn't realize, but it's like from New Hampshire. So soak up the rain is a section in the webpage, and I have this webpage there. I also have a piece of paper that everybody can get a copy of from Deb, and it tells you how to do it yourself. So we call it GIDYI or Giddy. Giddy up. I don't know. It's for like all of us.
DIY.
GIDYY. Okay, so this is a really cool webpage. We should get for us. It has all these things. You could press on one of these buttons and it gives you a step-by-step introduction. I'm doing the vegetated swales because that's one of the things we'd like to have. And this is what the DOT said they were going to do, which is not appropriate for that place. But anyhow, the reason why it's not appropriate is you need to measure how much water you're going to capture before you decide what you're going to build. And the amount of water that's going there needs to be measured. And we call that a water budget. And so more and more, you're going to hear these kind of words about water budget. And you can't really get a design in unless you get a budget. But if you have your own house or in front of your building and it's level and you just have a water problem, this is a wonderful thing. It's a do-it-yourself stormwater solution. And they have a 3-page booklet. I even have the copy of it. Here's a description of what the profile would be. You would just put a little, it's not, you know, magic. It's, you put a little indent here. You put plants that like wet plants here. We call them like wetland plants. You put prairie plants that are gonna be a little drier up here. And you figure out which plants you put where. And then they were even suggesting that you put some like little check dams in the downspout so that it doesn't go down so fast. And they have step-by-step, step 1, step 2. I mean, it was like 3 pages. It's just a great thing. And I'm finished.
Thank you, Karen. That's all really wonderful. I'll open it up to the committee. Does anybody have any questions? Karen, do you want to stop sharing?
Yeah.
Or unless somebody has a picture they want to see? Well, so Karen, so I
do want to say that I am doing a presentation at Speak Up on Saturday, the 25th. You're all invited. We're talking about green infrastructure and how it helps combat climate change. And everybody's invited to come. Many people are there. Jody's going to be there on my panel, and Melissa from the DEP and Paul Mankiewicz from the Gaia Institute. And also the Parks Department is going to talk about the things that they've done in terms of green infrastructure at the presentation. And they're going to describe the stormwater things. So the stormwater rules is a whole other thing that we should maybe one day talk about, you know, because from a building point of view, they're important to like our everyday life, you know, making the building smaller because we don't need more people to come into these areas. We are like at our limit at this point in terms of room in the sewer.
Okay. Camelia, your hand is up.
Thank you so much. Just a quick question. I mean, if you have more details about the division of responsibilities between DOT and the EP. I'm asking this because in the east side of the Bronx where I work, in an area that is way less exposed to flooding risks, I mean, on a maybe 10 blocks kind of square radius, I have probably like 25 brand new rain gardens, and they look amazing. And so I just wonder what, and it's DEP, by the way, and they're contractors. So I just wonder if you happen to know more, Karen, about
I can
how
explain,
do
yes.
these projects get assigned and between DEP
I can explain.
and DOT.
I can explain. So sometimes you might hear me talking about something called the long-term control plan. And so, and Deb talked a little bit about what they call the consent decree. The DEP was under consent decree to make sure the water quality, the quality of the water around the city is clean. And it's a big city, I agree. And they developed I think 11, maybe 12 different areas that they have been exploring since 2005. Maybe they weren't doing it so much in 2005. Maybe they didn't do it until like 2010. And so we were the last one. We were in this section that was called the open waters because it's the Hudson, the Harlem, the East River, the Sound, the Hutch, and Westchester Creek. And so it's like, it's everything. It's the East River, like, you know, it's Brooklyn, it's Queens, it's Staten Island. It takes in the whole city. And we were the last one to do it. So all the other ones went first. And because they were slow, and in the beginning, by the way, the DEP did not believe that there was such a thing that they could do as green infrastructure. We talked to them at BCQ constantly. You need to put green infrastructure. You're not doing it the right way. And I'm still not happy with the way they do it. They could do it better, but I'm happy that they're doing something. And so we are at the end. There's only Jamaica Bay and the open waters that hasn't been approved by the state. And Jamaica Bay is a different story because they are doing a lot of stuff down there and they're very low land. It's like the lowest land in the city. And so they have more problems. and we have a lot of problems. They can't, they say that we can't do anything in the West Bronx because we have rock. So I said, well, if you can't go deep, then you need to go wide. You need more room to take care of this. And so we are doing a special experiment with the DEP up in near Amalgamated on Marshall Loop Parkway. We are building a green infrastructure, not we, they're building the green infrastructure. We're looking at it. I'll bring it to everybody to see it because it's right on the edge of the highway. So it's kind of like a Parks, DOT, DEP combination. And we're building green infrastructure there. And it's going to be not deep because we did look, and the rock is 4 feet. At 4 feet, we hit rock over there. Well, that's what we are. We are rock. That's what we live in. And so that's the problem. I mean, I'm always like telling people, you got to hurry up. In fact, I think on the 25th or something, we're going, VCQ has got a meeting to talk to the DEC and say to them, listen, you have the plan. Let's just get it moving, because the project, the Tibbetts Brook daylighting project, is in the long-term control plan. That's how it got funded. And so not the bells and whistles, not the benches or the whatever, but that's how it's funded. And that has not been approved. If it doesn't get approved, how's it going to get built? And so you're right. They have it there because their water is dirty and their runoff is going into the water. So they're trying to capture that's why I showed you all those different ways and things and how the water is getting polluted. The East Bronx, the water is getting polluted by all the runoff from the streets and the roofs and things like that. And they got it easier. If you got a private house, you can put a rain barrel in or two and capture the water and use it to water your plants instead of throwing it down the drain and making it overflow. And of course, a lot of parts of not where you are, but in other parts of the East Bronx, that was all wetland. So they're sitting on water to begin with. So they have that problem, but they got it first because they were on a different list. And we advocated with them to get it. So now, we should have just been advocating for ourselves. But
couldn't we ask for, sorry, Deb,
Yeah.
just very quickly,
Yeah.
along Broadway corridor, couldn't we ask for enhanced tripits?
Right, or porous pavement or something like that
Yeah,
too.
because
like,
so I didn't show you, I have another PowerPoint which has, what happened on Broadway, because we have, they took up the land from the McDonald's, they took up their parking lot, they closed for a while, and then the Wendy's also, and they ripped it up and they put those detention basins. That's how much water they have. But what I believe is that if you take the water that's coming down the hills on both sides of Broadway, if you capture that, you will save Broadway. The water out of it that's coming from Tibbetts and all this other stuff. And then I also took a map out, and I have a map of, you see all the outfalls of direct discharge, not combined, just straight stormwater that's coming from Westchester. In fact, 65% of the water is coming from Westchester in the lake. 65%. So how do we make that lake clean if we're not in control of that? It's somebody else's problem. That's why we're talking to the state. Like, they got to do their job.
Ed, you had your hand up?
No, I don't have any questions. I just really wanted to thank Karen for the presentation and her passion on this. This is one of the best, most educational, well thought out presentations I've seen brought before this committee. So I just wanted to thank you, and very, very enlightening. That's it. I know a few people have other questions, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Ed. I totally agree. Jody?
So Deb, you asked about budget requests, and this is picking up from where we left off. Was it last night?
Last night.
So I did go down to Broadway and photograph some of those places that I was talking about where there's pitting and depressions along the curb line because the water has eroded out the asphalt, and it hasn't rained and there are puddles in those places. The driveway at Enterprise, the corner of 232nd Street and Broadway. So those are things, and Karen and I've talked a lot about, you know, crowning the roads. That would help deal with, I just don't like the idea of water puddling, because in the summer that's mosquito heaven.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, when you want to talk about EJ, well, that's like that whole court is Marble Hill houses. So those are some of the things. And one of the things that's really interesting to look at on Broadway are the tree beds at Staples parking lot. They moved them away from the curb to the opposite side.
Oh, nice.
So they're not getting smashed by the people parking on the street or trucks. But even some of the tree beds on Broadway are just, they're like concrete. The soil is so hard, people step on them, it gets so compacted. You know, so I think the recrowning the roads and dealing with the eroded edges could eliminate some of the flooding that happens on Broadway, because the water sort of gathers in those little lakes and then overflows into the storm drain in a huge rush. So those are some, you know, those are expense things, I guess, because it's not a huge capital project. And I also just wanted to comment on the curb lines. I just think we should be super cautious about that because of what DOT did with the curb line at Capoc and Palisade. So if we're raising curbs, it means that the water's going to run faster along those curbs and be directed somewhere. So I don't know how to resolve that with DOT, that they're thinking about the water flow and not just putting this curb to code.
Because they really need to do a water budget almost on anything that they touch on the streets in our area because of the steep hills.
So Karen, have you seen like, is the ask almost for just like a study for a water budget for vulnerable areas? I mean, is that a better approach, just to try to understand, like, because we were kind of looking at like a study for green infrastructure along to address rainwater on certain
Feasibility
corridors.
study.
A feasibility study for the rainwater, the stormwater prevention for the Deegan corridor or Bailey or Broadway. But is it better just to talk about a water budget?
Well, I think this is my opinion. You guys can decide yourself. My opinion is we're a bunch of volunteers and we be educated to advocate. And we should be educated to advocate the agencies to do the right job. We don't need to be like thinking what they need to do.
We know what the solution is. Yeah, we have to just point to the problem.
Right. So that's what I tried to do with my presentation. I would like to put together a group of people that I would call the green infrastructure advocates, and you know, and meet some more to talk about what exactly, how you identify it, where you go, and then enable people to, you know, lobby, or not, let's not use that word because that's a whole other story. Advocate for effective management of the water on the street. And so the more that we can talk about it, so like the bioswale is not what we want at a corner at the bottom of the hill, because the bottom of the hill is where all the water.
It's too late.
What happened was, years ago, they didn't have to worry about the water. So they just said, like, let's take care of it when it gets to the bottom of the hill. So that's why at the bottom of the hill, if you ever drive in the country, you look and you see there's always like this like wetland thing at the bottom of every hill on the corner. How did that happen? Well, that's because everybody's like letting their water run off from one house to the other house to the other house. And the same thing is happening in our area. It's just bigger buildings. So at the end of the hill, it's bad and nobody's taking care of it upland. But if you measure how much water is coming down and allocate, well, you have to do this and where did that curb cut? Every time you make a curb cut, the water's coming out of the land onto the street.
Right.
That's just happens. And so I think advocacy is what we need to be doing. And we could say, do you want to do a feasibility study? Do you want to do a model, a demo? What is it that you want to do? You have to do something because it's a problem.
So so if people are interested in being involved with the Green Infrastructure Advocates for BCEQ, who should they contact?
Well, they should contact Karen at bceq.org. That's me. And we're gonna like talk about that at the Speak Up to try to get people into that. But one of the goals of the Water Working Group at the E&S Committee is to get more green infrastructure in Community Board 8. That's one of our goals, and you can help us get there.
I see Bob Panuzzi is also got his hand up. Bob, do you want to go?
Deb, thanks for putting this on your agenda, and thank you, Karen, for enlightening and wonderful and inspiring as always, and playing tag team on the issue of water. For those of you on TNT that are asking about how to budget and what to ask for, by way of background, E&S has been asking for green infrastructure and what DEP calls right of way for several years. In fact, ever since that Water Working Group was formed. So I really encourage people to look at what DOT offers in the way of a repertoire of practices that they have in their design manuals for things that can help your road beds and stabilize roads in our area, which are being eaten away by water, especially in hilly areas. So we will do our part on DEP, but we really need TNT to get in the face of DOT and get them to start making design changes to these high flow areas. I can't stress that enough.
Great, thank you so much, Bob. And to answer, Camelia, your question about like, what is the difference between what belongs to DOT and what belongs to DEP? I think that they work together for sure. And the DEP are the subject matter experts when it comes to the water management. That DOT, however, through the streets plan now has as one of its priorities, stormwater management. And so there are certain treatments that are kind of normal that they would just apply that are kind of simplified things. And then there are more complex projects where they partner with DEP to build out something that's heavily designed and engineered. So it seems like there's no easy answer to who owns what, but that there's an opportunity because it's one of their priorities to engage them to ask for specific things.
Thanks, Deb. And do you think that it's DOT that has the budgeting power?
Well, it's one of their priorities. And so they've got to have budget to meet their own metrics and what they're going to be measured against.
Right. And then the other thing is that, just like when they build a sewer treatment plant, because this is like little sewer treatment plants all over the place, basically. When they build a sewer treatment plant, they always put in for maintenance. So everything, the maintenance should be in there. And we need to use that since they don't really have very good mechanism to do maintenance, we always wanted to get a workforce development contract going on in the area so that we could train people to recognize how to weed and not pull the plants that are native and how to take care of it. And, we expect the agency to follow whatever the guidelines are, but we would like to, like for the neighbors to take care of the, like the everyday kind of thing, maybe pick up the garbage once a week, but, you need to have people that are trained that can do that. And that's a good job. It's a really good job, and the kids could do it, and you could do it in school. We have a pollinated garden over by Clinton. Of course, they mowed it down, but that doesn't matter. Come back.
I'm going to take the one last person. I think this is Georgia. Georgia, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I would like to add a little bit more to Marble Hills, Kingsbridge, Marble Hills section here. Kira and I did a walkthrough today somewhat, but before, this was given to some information I have from when Chairperson Dan was on Cabinet. But anyway, the problem here is for the stagnant water puddles, which Aaron has spoken on it, but I'm speaking of here, the Marble Hill section, Kingsbridge, and as far as 238th Street, all the way down to 225th Street. There water just standing. And like someone said before, if it was summertime, we would be concerned about West Nile virus mosquitoes. So, for instance, there's only like 2 inches there by the post office. It's stagnant puddles right by the 5517 Broadway. And there's only one grate has 6 feet of available space for the water drain. Dunkin' Donuts is the same thing.
So is this is a trash issue plus crowning plus?
No, wait.
is
First of
that
all,
what I'm-
I think
They don't clean the water
need to-
drains. They don't
they
do
should be-
anything.
that somebody should put that in as a complaint. Every single time you see those things, take a picture, put it in as a complaint, and send a copy to the community board so they can follow up on it. Because you're right, there.
This was done. Is this Karen I'm speaking
Yes,
to?
this is Karen, right?
This is Georgia.
Hi,
We
Georgia.
did this. Hi there. Meaning, you wouldn't know her, I don't think, Patricia Morling, and it was 90 degrees temperature that we walked and did all this. I had pictures taken. We presented it to the board. And so all that was done, but I'm willing to do it again. Even though I'm older now, I'll try.
So,
well, even if you have the old pictures though too, Georgia, when were they
the old
taken?
pictures are fine,
Well,
right?
I don't have them because it was done on, when you're doing a presentation.
Yeah.
That was
Georgia,
done
I
back
have
in
pictures of that. Georgia, this is Jody. I did take pictures of that. I actually brought that up last night. There's that standing water puddle right in front of that little community garden. So I have some pictures of the flooding of that over the curb right in front of the Marble Hill houses. And I have pictures and videos of the water along Broadway exactly in that same section that you were talking about. So, I'm happy you can reach out to the board and Deb and get my contact info. And I'm happy to walk with you and take pictures as well and take video.
No, I got your contact info.
So let me explain.
Deb, I
Years
need
ago,
to stress.
years ago, one of the best. wait,
Karen, Bob is trying to stress something. I just want to let him do that, and then you can speak again. Bob?
We, according to the mayor's office, we are not flood prone. And that's because they measure 311 calls.
Right.
We need your call. Forget about the presentation, forget about the photos, make the call. This is chronic. We are flood prone, okay? I cannot stress and beg everyone enough to make the call. This was our answer that we got from the mayor's office after Ida, that we were not flood prone on the map because that takes 311 calls. Make the call. Thank you for taking that.
Okay, so what I was going to say is that it is a best management practice to have the streets swept because you don't want garbage going down the drain and you want it to be taken care of. And so I know we're into another agency now, but in any event, they do credit, that stupid thing that says we're 95% clean on the streets. That thing is because that's put in the presentation on the long-term control plan, cleaning the streets. And the streets haven't really been cleaned adequately for the last 2.5 years. Those have to be done. And I would urge that it's important to make the phone call, or I never make the phone call. I do it by the app. But I think in addition to making the phone call, it's important to prove to them that it's there. Because otherwise they're going to go there and they'll say, we couldn't find it.
All right, well, Karen, I want to thank you so much for this presentation. It was really informative, and I think
Sorry
that
for being
gives,
so long.
it's not, no. I mean, it's worth it. It's like a foundational piece to understand how to address stormwater. And, you know, we've had longer conversations about the Deegan and about KPOC and Palisade, and this is kind of gets to the heart of some of that water stuff. So thank you so much for coming and explaining it all to us.
You're welcome. See you all.
Much appreciated.
I'll
Good
be here.
night. We're going to shift gears and we're going to go over to discuss Bailey Avenue. Really, I just wanted to have a conversation about the intersection of West 238th Street and Bailey Avenue. But 2 months ago, we started our discussion of Bailey Avenue. In our district, Bailey Avenue is one of the worst streets in terms of safety. We've had pedestrians that have been struck there. We had the motorcycle fatality last year. We have chronic vehicle crashes at the intersections. And when we spoke to the committee or to the community originally 2 months ago, and then again last month, 238th Street and Broadway is one of those intersections that is considered the worst of a bad situation. So last month we talked about Van Cortlandt Avenue South. And so this month, I wanted to just pivot over to talk about Bailey and 238. And what we're really doing is we're doing some fact finding, hearing directly from the community. We're making lists of exactly what the community is telling us. And then we're going back to advocate with the DOT to come back to the committee and to discuss what they're going to do about all this. So and with that said, I would just like to kind of open the floor to anybody, if there's anybody on the call that would like to raise any specific areas of concern regarding safety for pedestrians, vehicles, or bicyclists at the intersection of Bailey Avenue and West 238th Street. Anybody? I see Karen's hands up. Karen, your hand is up first. I'll let you go.
Do we have any idea of if it's a certain time of day?
We don't have the crash map or data.
I would wager to
time-
guess that the time of day is very significant.
Really? What's your operating theory? Because I know I've had trouble crossing Bailey on the way to work in the morning.
Yeah, that's
coming
a good
home.
time. Right.
And then also
That's a
at
bad
2
time.
o'clock, like there's a lot of, back when the restaurants and stuff were open, before the fire, certainly there was in the deli there was often double parked cars. Those businesses will come back. Jody's hand's is up, so I'm gonna let her go.
Yeah, I just think the time of day might be something you want to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say something along those lines because there are a lot of restaurants there that are more bar-like. And there is I would say look up from Broadway and 238th to Bailey as well as past it. You come down that hill, it's kind of a blind spot. And I know that there's a lot of traffic coming out of that rooftop parking lot. So maybe it's like we've been talking about the water. Maybe it's the feeders that are ending up at that intersection is what the problem is, not the intersection itself. There's the bus line comes across, the two buses cross each other, the Bronx 3 comes down, and the Bronx 10 goes across, as well as the BX1. So I think there's just a lot of people getting on and off those stops because the stores are there, there's a lot of big apartment buildings there, and then there's a lot of places that serve alcohol.
Right. Right. Well, there's a
So-
lot of pedestrians crossing Bailey at that point on both sides.
Yeah, because there's those two apartment buildings right there, and people are crossing to either go up the hill to the smaller restaurants up there, the takeout places, and then people are also crossing to get the bus.
Mm-hmm. Right. And to catch the bus, there's pedestrians rushing across. It's pretty wide. I think that's one thing that's probably worth calling out is that the Bailey, when you're trying to get across right there, is fairly wide.
Well,
It feels
that-
exposed when you're in the middle.
That's something to look at. I know that you were mentioning some of the design manuals. I think there are new timings now for seniors, how many seconds to be able to cross. So maybe that's something to look at, is the timing of the walk signs and the don't walk signs. I walk pretty fast, and sometimes I'm stuck in the street, and it's already changing and the cars are already going, and I walk at a pretty good clip. So
Right.
that could be something else, is another timing. There's a lot of turning there too. So maybe a turn signal is something that could resolve some of the problems.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
You're
All right, very good. Thank you. Carol Martin?
Yes, I have a complaint regarding 238th Street. There are a lot of double parked cars. Sometimes they're on both sides of the street.
And
that
the double parked
contributes-
cars are on Bailey, or they're on two?
No, they're on 238th Street. And what happens if you're going down the hill and you're going to make that left-hand turn, you have to zigzag. And by the time you get to the intersection, the light changes, which is a good thing, because if it doesn't, it is difficult to make that turn. Because of the double parked cars, the tremendous double parked cars.
So these are when you're going down 238 and it's very windy.
Going down or coming up.
There's usually a double parked car in front of the apartment
Cars,
building. On
more
the
than
down,
one.
And then
Yes,
there's double
more than
parked
one.
cars in front of the laundromat.
Yes, and the restaurant.
Right. Okay. Is there anything else?
No, just the double parked cars. It's really getting hazardous.
Right, well, because you
And I
have to
really
cross
have-
the parking. Is it because you have to cross the center lane essentially as you're going down and you just don't have good visibility?
The visibility is very poor with it, and especially if you're driving, because if you try to go around a double parked car, you could meet one coming on, coming towards you. And if you are trying to cross the street from I think there's a grocery store in the corner to the apartment building, the cars that's coming down the bend may not see the pedestrian because they're busy trying to maneuver around the double parked cars.
Right. Okay. I think that's totally good. Thank you. Ed, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar with the area. Personally, I've never had any issues crossing the street over there. So I think maybe if there is an issue with that, it might be like Karen suggested at certain specific times that may be busier than others. And I mean, the entire intersection is governed by traffic lights all four ways. So if there is a problem, it's with cars that are turning and possibly not giving the right of way to pedestrians. And that's something we mentioned before with this new law that's, kind of being implemented here that's everywhere else, that may or may not help with that. But I personally haven't had any issues with that street over there crossing. But again, I could just be going at times where it's not. It sounds like an issue that might be when there's heavy traffic at some type of a rush hour. And really only with the turning cars, because and I think Jody's suggestion about a timer or something might be useful to pedestrians also, because that, to me, that's the only thing I could see that could seem to be a conflict is cars not giving right of way to pedestrians at busier times. That's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say for myself that that's the thing I mostly have experienced, is that crossing on 238 from the, what is it, the west side to the east side, that it's always turning traffic, not really yielding. Is the, like, it's just cars are turning and you have to just be really careful and very mindful of them. Yeah.
And vice versa,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And with the pedestrians, obviously, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, no, totally. Thank you, Ed. Stacy Fish.
Hi, so I haven't been there in that area, but I'm curious, since there's so much heavy traffic at some sort parts of the day, and they're not watching out for pedestrians, the drivers, is there a only turning signal over there?
I mean, it's something that certainly DOT could consider. I think the first step that we're doing really is to try to figure out what the problems are that people are having, what people are seeing on the street, because we know that people are certainly, there's crashes happening. And so if there's crashes, then there's probably some interference between pedestrians and cars. And so then the next thing would be to just talk to DOT to see what they know about it. And so far, this seems like this is actually a very good conversation, because the introduction that I had to DOT, this was not on their radar. Bailey Avenue is not on their radar. And so we'll, bring this information back to them and then have them come and talk to us a bit about it. But certainly, maybe it makes sense to have like a left turn bay or something, if there's room, just to make it clearer that cars are turning. Particularly, I think, as Carol was pointing out, like when you're on 238 and you're heading east, there's cars that are coming down that you can't really see them because of the hill and the turns and stuff.
Yeah. And also,
Yeah.
if it was double parked cars and it's such a busy area with all these stores, wouldn't it make sense that, let's say, have a parking garage somewhere?
Yeah, and we'll just, although often the double parked cars are because people are going into the business very briefly.
That's
but-
exactly. They're going into the cleaners. I'm sorry to interrupt. They're going into the cleaners. They're going into the restaurants. Now, I noticed one day when I was coming up and I had to go back out. I noticed a lady who, her car was double parked, but she was sitting at the table in the restaurant.
That's bold. I mean, and this is some enforcement. I mean, I think that people are surprised if there's any enforcement sometimes with some double parking. So it may be that we just need to advocate for more enforcement, just to have people reminded that that's
For the
dangerous.
enforcement to come through the
Yeah.
street. They really need to come through. Thank you.
Absolutely. User number 2. The user number 2, that's what the screen says. You have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry. How about
That's good. Welcome.
Hello. How about just signage? Those big, I don't know if it's a pedestrian crossing with a big little figure and the little figure at on 238 and Bailey. That doesn't seem too expensive. To emphasize pedestrian crossing with mother and child, or the big figure and the little figure, and then see how we adapt as drivers, given this emphasis on being careful because of pedestrian crossing.
So is it the
Fine.
signage would help with turns, right? Just to make the drivers more aware that there may be turning
That's right,
pedestrians or children.
more aware, so slow down.
And then do you see a lot of children or seniors walking along 238 or trying to cross at this intersection? And just in terms of uses.
Personally, no, but I'm not there at often. But again, it's a big intersection, especially across, Bailey. But it is a bit of the Wild West, I feel. people sneaking past the yellow, red. So if those signs indicating clearly, instead of a deer crossing, that there are people crossing, that just might make people more careful with their left turns and right turn. Left turns, really, these are left turns. That's all.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. And Carol, your hand is still up, or was that from before?
I'm sorry, I should have lowered it. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Jody, your hand is up.
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. I was just thinking back to something that you said about people running for the bus. So that's definitely things I've seen. It's on both ends, the drivers and the pedestrians. That the pedestrians are running across, jaywalking to catch the bus. Because those buses are Bronx buses and they don't really run very reliably. So if you don't get the bus you see, you don't know when the next one is. So
yeah, well, that 10, if you miss it, it's not coming for another 15 minutes or something.
If it, or 30 if the driver didn't show. So
Right.
I think that is also a lot of the conflict it's not just bad drivers, it's pedestrians who are so focused on where they want to be that they just start crossing, and the cars do come down fast when they have the green light, and the pedestrians are crossing against the light and are getting caught in the intersections. So, it sounds kind of weird, but I think we have to educate people on very basic things like cross at the green and not in between. So maybe a pedestrian, but no, I'm serious.
Yeah,
maybe
no.
a pedestrian education thing at that corner, maybe something like that could be helpful.
It also occurs to me that it doesn't have any of the ADA features. Like if you're blind, I think it does have the high visibility pedestrian crosswalk, but I don't think it has any features if you're visually disabled, which would be helpful for such a busy intersection. Joe Pila, you're next. And thank you, Jody.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Deb. I'd like to second the idea of putting signage, four-way signage at 238th and Bailey a bit before the intersection for drivers to recognize that it's a busy pedestrian crossing. I think it's a very good suggestion. Also, I don't know how feasible it is because of traffic flow, but how about the notion of a pedestrian-only period before the light actually changes so that pedestrians can get a head start? That's true at Bailey and Kingsbridge, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's a delay operative there. I think it'd be useful at 238th and Bailey as well.
That's a good idea.
To be true, I start crossing and cars already making the turn in front of me, behind me, immediately. And that's quite common at all times of the day, but especially in the rush hours, the PM rush hour in particular, I've noticed.
Okay.
As a corollary, I think we also need to address the intersection at Putnam and 238th, the entrance to the Riverdale Crossing Shopping Center. There are times of the day, and again, the PM rush is what I often notice, say from 5 to 7, where there's so much traffic there that it's quite difficult to actually walk on the sidewalk in front of the driveway entrance to the crossing safely, because cars are coming from Putnam and turning. I presume a light was considered there, but that it was decided that it was infeasible because of the closeness to Bailey Avenue. But maybe a flashing light, a caution light at least, to make people aware again of certainly pedestrians on the sidewalk.
Right. No, that's a good point. The 238 and at Putnam, it seems like the traffic is having it has a hard time figuring out, the drivers have a hard time figuring out if they can go because of visibility, not being able to see because of double parked cars along 238, plus buses, plus just a lot of oncoming traffic.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, interesting.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Joe. That's all really helpful stuff. So what I think I've got so far as kind of big takeaways is that that it's a busy corner. It's got bus stops, it's got stores, restaurants, apartment buildings, and that the big items to be aware of that we'd like DOT to address is just the wild west of cars coming really quickly, pedestrians crossing outside of the pedestrian walkways or the crosswalks because of they're just running to get to buses, and that something like a leading pedestrian indicator just to allow the pedestrians to kind of get out there in front of the turning cars might be a helpful thing. And there's just generally failure to yield with vehicles and the double parking. So failure to yield with turns, double parking, pedestrians kind of all over the place and hard to predict, cars driving quickly and hard to predict. Neva, did you have something you want to add?
Are we still talking about 238 and Bailey?
Yes, ma'am.
The cars are turning before they get to the intersection.
Oh, that's right. You brought that up before.
Yes.
The cars are cutting.
Right, and like I was crossing from the east side, the west side of Bailey Avenue. Sorry, my cat is begging for his snack, his nighttime snack.
I totally understand. I have two kittens behind me.
I was on the west side of Bailey crossing to the east side, and the car turned north into the west side lane. So they're I don't know why they're turning really before they get to the intersection. So I was wondering if we can have an island or maybe a little strip. And it's coming from Bailey turning onto 238 and 238 turning in onto Bailey, where people just are turning before they get into the intersection. So I was wondering like an island, or I don't know, those little, they look like flags, those white poles, because I think there's some at Van Cortlandt South and Sedgwick where.
Yeah, Van Cortlandt Avenue West and Sedgwick, the flexible delineators. Yeah, I mean
run them over, but
the thing we've kind of learned about DOT, and I think this makes sense, is that that we can't ask for a specific type of treatment like that to solve a problem any more than we can go into a doctor and say that I've done a Google search and I think you need to take out my appendix. That, we go to DOT and we say, this is a thing that you may not have noticed, but that we have noticed and we feel every day because we live in the neighborhood, that when we cross the street, it's dangerous. And then we go look at the stats and we go like, it's dangerous. People are being hit by cars are hitting each other. And so, we raise it and then we try to advocate that something happens and that improves it, that they go and analyze it. And then when we see the fruits of their labor, we, give them feedback on what we think will be effective or not. And so I think we're trying to, treat them like the professionals that we know they are, but also to try to get more and more clear about what we want them to address so that we don't end up with things we don't think are helpful. So it's really, there's been really kind of, I think it's a really complicated dance that we're in right now, particularly I think because there are treatments that not everybody is bought into that DOT is trying to implement. And so one of the things I think we want to try to do in this committee over the next few months is to also just have them explain what they're up to and to understand better what the street plan is and how they're approaching these things so that we can kind of better advocate and connect what the community is looking for with what their priorities are, you know. Oh,
Well
Karen, your
said.
hand is up.
Oh, very well said.
Yeah, right. We'll
Yeah.
crack the code eventually.
I'm remembering that there was this one day in, I don't know, could have been July or August, when I had to get from one place to another, and all the traffic kind of stopped and got stuck. And I was coming from the north on Broadway, and the cars must have gone like 1 mile or a half a mile an hour. It was just terrible. The only relief that I could find, I was in a taxi, so it was even worse, was to tell them to leave me off at 238th Street, which was clear. And so I'm thinking that there may be more traffic now than there ever was before, certainly before the pandemic. You know, in the middle of the pandemic, it was great, nobody was around. And then all of a sudden now there's these people who don't drive right, but there's also maybe more traffic for some reason. And I'm thinking that one of the things you might want to think about asking, because I heard they're building a new school and an apartment building at the same time at the visitation site, is a traffic study that includes these streets. Because people might be taking 238th Street as a way to get off Van Cortlandt Park South.
Well, it seems like
Entrance ways to the highways. And so that's where everybody's coming and going.
Well, it definitely, like, just, you know, we've in discussions about Bailey, it definitely seems like the Google Maps and Waze and other apps may be directing major Deegan traffic onto Bailey when Deegan gets backed up. That seems like that may be something that's happening. Two, when Broadway gets backed up, people cut through Broadway and into that what's it called? Whatever, something crossing the Stella D'Oro plan. Yeah, to Putnam, and they come out there. And they're just cutting through because they're cutting through to get over to Bailey.
That's terrible. Oh my God.
To get over to Bailey to then just cut up to the Deacon.
Right. And then that's why you can't cross on that side of the street on 238th Street, because you're going to get hit by those cars coming.
You get hit by those cars cutting through. Yeah. So I think that's also kind of the part of it is there's traffic coming from there and traffic coming off of Broadway.
I don't know how else to get a traffic study. I mean, you could ask the college if they, you know, have something for the students to do.
Yeah.
We could ask the students to do a traffic study, I guess. I don't know how they do
I mean,
that.
I feel like DOT really is only going to listen to its own traffic study, or unless you're a bid and you have, you know, consultants come in who are, you know, design professionals who can, you know,
The DOT will also listen to your elected officials. So if you get a traffic study done by the students, say at Manhattan College, and they put together as a report, you know, for their class, and you take it to your elected officials, you know.
Okay. Neva, thank you, Karen. And Neva, your hand is up. Is that from before?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, so then I don't see any other hands. I think this has been really good as far as fact finding to understand what the situation is at 238. So I want to thank everybody who came out to provide feedback on this intersection. This is really important stuff. It's, you know, if we can make our streets safer, then this has been time well spent. I want to move over to the discussion of the budget items for fiscal year 24. I sent out previously, I'm going to share screen. I sent out previously to the committee what the list was for last year. And then I started to kind of sketch in based on the conversations we were having with at the Environment and Sanitation Committee meeting last night. And then also I myself have been going and making it a point to go to all of the step streets because that is a perennial issue, the maintenance of step streets. And so I wanted to check out as many of them as I can and identify ones that were definitely in need of capital repair and just start putting those on this list as well. So I would like to start with folks, members of the committee. Does anybody have anything they would like to add, like something that's you know, we should put on the list to start thinking about? Mary Ellen, you got your hand up.
I had mentioned it, like in the last years,
Mhm.
but these streets, because they keep on getting ripped up and they're just falling apart. You got gaping holes in all these streets. It's getting really, really bad.
Well, so we talked to DOT about paving. Kira and I, just in terms of, just to understand that, like, is that a capital item? Is that an expense item? What is that? And they basically, all we need to do is just identify blocks that need paving. They go and they look and they say, okay, this block was last paved X number of years ago. And if it's, I believe it's every 5 years is their kind of criteria. But if it hasn't been paved recently, then they will just add it to their list to be paved. And depending on the time of the year, it's, you know, it's obviously seasonal because of the weather. They'll put it on the list and they'll do it. They'll schedule it out. Sometimes they can't do that. You'll see, I added here, based actually on one of the conversations we had about paving, from the paving list that we worked on, we submitted last spring. There was one that DOT came back to us on, and that was Kingsbridge Road. Kingsbridge Road has sections that are full concrete all the way through, and so they're capital projects to repave. And so, yeah, it's right in the middle here, traffic and transportation, resurface West 225th Street / Kingsbridge Road, a full depth concrete roadway from Broadway to Reservoir. So that's just because of that. So Mary Ellen, if there's specific stretches, I know you talked about West 254th going to the Metro North station. I think
there was also the other one too. It's 232nd at Netherland, all the way going down to the Hamilton Parkway East.
So if you've got specific stretches, well, it shouldn't be a capital thing. We should be able to just have that done as regular yearly maintenance. So if you send an email to the board office and CC me with the exact stretch. So, and anybody on this call, and you know, if there is a section of street that is in very poor condition, please let the board office know. All we need to know is the streets and the blocks. Yeah.
It's funny because I mentioned it in these meetings, and now my ankle is broken because of it. So I just can't believe it. So yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awful. I'm sorry about your ankle. It's awful.
Yeah.
So Neva, your hand is up. Is that from before?
Sorry about that, sorry.
Okay, no problems.
Are
Osvaldi.
these just for?
Oh, wait.
this, Or can I add something?
Well, here, let me do committee members first, and then I'll come back.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Osvaldi.
Hello, I just wanted to note that the third budget capital request, I think the street technically is Kingsbridge Terrace to Sedgwick Avenue.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, because I live right.
Yeah, you live
next
right.
to it.
You live right there.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Here you go. Fixed. Good catch. Is there anything else?
I think that's all.
Yeah, this one is interesting because they did that part is two separate step streets. From Sedgwick to Kingsbridge Terrace, and then Kingsbridge Terrace to Heath. And so one part of it looks beautiful, and then the other part really needs some work.
Yeah.
So.
There's a lack of lighting as well on the street.
So on the step street itself?
On the step street itself.
So maybe we should add that just to make sure that we call it out, and add lighting and improve lighting.
I'm literally looking at it right now. Yeah, there's no light.
Yeah, you know, I was shocked actually. I put it on here on Marble Hill Lane. There's a step street there, and it's actually not in bad condition, but not a single light. I mean, it was dead dark. Like it was just so shocking that, you know, that anybody would build something like that without putting a light in.
Very unsafe.
Totally unsafe. Ed, your hand's up.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I mean, the repaving, that's one of my main issues, not with any specific place, but like Mary Ellen mentioned, the roads are constantly getting ripped up. So we have to be very diligent as a committee to keep requesting specific areas of paving the streets. But that being said, I see number 8, the resurfacing of West 225th Street. If paving doesn't really qualify as an expense or capital, it's just really a request to DOT to periodically upgrade this. Should this even be on our budget request list? And if so, what is, for what? Capital expense, probably expense, but
So this
should
one,
this even be on there because it's a full depth concrete roadway? Maybe that's what qualifies it.
that's what qualifies it. So this one is one of the rare ones. So off of our back last spring, if you'll remember, we had a whole list of paving requests that we put together. And so there were a couple of blocks on Sedgwick Avenue. I think Heath was on there. There was a few all over the district. And so over the summer, I went to DOT and Kira and I, we went through all of these and we said, okay, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? So there were a couple of blocks of Sedgwick Avenue where they're like, well, we already repaved it. So we're not going to do it this year, but we'll consider it for next year. Whereas there were other blocks like on Webb or Heath where they're like, oh, we'll do that right away. Dickinson, they're like, well, we had to look into it, and then they ended up doing it. So it was no problem. It was a bit of nudging, but they put them on the list and they repaved. This one though is the only one where they came back to us and they said, this is a capital project because it's concrete. And so parts of 225th, Kingsbridge Road are not full depth concrete, but since the whole thing is in poor condition, if they resurface some of it, they still have the portions that are full depth concrete do need to be fixed. And so that's what makes it a capital.
Great, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But if there's other streets that you know of, just totally email them and to the board and CC me so that I can add it to my list. And then I just review it with Kira when she goes into the district service cabinet meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Chris.
Yeah, just to elaborate on your earlier point, Deb, regarding Marble Hill Lane. It has lighting now, so your list was listened to in that juncture.
Wait, what do you mean it has lighting? It just has lighting at the end.
And it has one in the middle.
What? Really?
Yep.
When did that happen?
It's been that way for a good 8-9 months.
Because I was just there. I was there for the snowstorm because I walked over there to come just check out on it for the snowstorm, and there wasn't any light. There were lights that the building had put at the entrances. That was it.
Well, I see 3 lights coming off the flagpole. I mean, the light poles at 228th and at Marble Hill Avenue shining into the street.
Right.
And then there's one pole in the center of the step street with a light on it.
Oh, interesting.
I will recheck that because I haven't walked that street in a long time, but I will recheck it.
Just double check it, because I mean, I wasn't there. It wasn't totally dark. It was sunset. It was getting late. It was like 5 o'clock, but it was dark. Like I didn't see a single light. And I just went and asked the guy who was like moving his car because what the situation was, because I didn't see a single light. But maybe I missed. I mean, it's possible I missed it, but I didn't see a single light there. I can also look at the picture. I took a picture of it. But yeah, if you could double check it, that way, if it doesn't need lights, but even I guess maybe it needs more lights. If you and I are having a conversation about whether there are any, probably it needs more.
I will get back to you.
Okay, get back to me. Asfali, did you have another question or another statement?
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to include both the sidewalks, or not the sidewalks, technically the street paths in 231st, in the intersection of 231st and Broadway. They are extremely, extremely poor.
Say that again. It's the intersection of what?
231st and Broadway.
The paving?
Yes, the paving.
Okay. So can you put that in an email, the exact blocks, just an email the board, and I'll also follow up. So it's 231st So I just noted 230th between Broadway and Riverdale was really, really bad. Is that also part of what you're talking about? Or are you talking about the intersection itself at 231st?
Just the intersection itself at 231st, the
Okay.
like the pavement when you're crossing at either corner from one side to the other, it's
Mhm.
really, really poor to the point where like you can fall down, you can trip.
Okay.
Asmali, I think that from what we talked about last night, there are pipes coming down from the subway tracks that are dumping water. They like run like a stream and they've eroded out those corners.
Oh, that's that.
Oh wow, I wasn't in the meeting last night. Sorry about that.
No,
that's okay.
That's okay.
Oh, but wow, yeah, that's interesting to know. Yeah, I see that being a very big issue because yeah, it's oddly it's like some of the areas that have been eroded are really deep.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one though, Jody, because we're the traffic and transportation, so it doesn't have to be a DOT thing. It could be an MTA thing. So I mean, maybe this is also a stormwater retention for the above ground railroad line. Yes.
I don't know. Try everything.
Why not? All right, just ask. That's how you get the comments, and then you can slowly figure out what's going on.
Yes.
I will also note the street pavement in Kingsbridge Road with Kingsbridge Terrace. People have tripped there as well.
Kingsbridge Terrace?
Yes, with Kingsbridge Road, primarily on Kingsbridge Road.
Oh, I
When
know. Well,
you-
that's what that whole Kingsbridge, that's where you're getting into the concrete part of Kingsbridge Road.
Yeah.
That's the capital project.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the real height of it. I assume it's because of the steepness of the slope.
Yes, the slope and the heavy traffic on that hill.
Mhm.
And I lost a wheel to one of those potholes in January
Oof.
last year.
At least you didn't lose your head.
It's a heavy traffic area because a lot of people who take the 9 bus right there's a bus stop. They trip a lot from what I've seen.
Is that because do the pedestrian curbs have they been updated? Is the pedestrian walkway itself, like the where the curb cut is, the crosswalk, is that new and in
No.
good condition?
No, it's almost non-existent.
Okay, because that's also and that's just also for everybody who's on this call, that there is a citywide program to upgrade all of the pedestrian curbing, so that for the crosswalks, so that they are high visibility for folks who have difficulty seeing. And so if yours has not been, then please do a 311 report to let the DOT know. So just to make sure that all of our pedestrian crosswalks are getting updated. I know the 230th Street, like there's a lot of them have not been done there. Kingsbridge or Albany Crescent, I was over there, they have not been done. Van Cortlandt Avenue West has several that haven't been done. So if you're seeing them, do the 311 report and let the board know so we can make sure to follow up.
Great.
And say it sounds like Kingsbridge Road's the same thing. So I'll make a note.
Thanks. I'll do that for sure. Thank you.
Definitely.
And then really, thank you. Relay it back to you guys.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so feasibility study capture water runoff from overhead tracks on the #1 train at the intersections. It's Jody, it's 231st and 238th, right?
Yeah, I think yeah.
And
think
is it
the
also
238
225th? It's 225th too. That was Georgia's, is that part of where Georgia was seeing the water puddling?
Yeah, it's all the way from 225th all the way to 238th and Broadway.
Yeah, what we're talking about is, I know that I know for
The
sure that
dripping,
there are
I know what you're saying.
the pipes coming
dripping,
down.
yes. I was there yesterday, and the water is, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's the way you explained it, which I have no idea where it's coming from, because it's just dripping down, leaking.
Okay, well, I can check.
At 231st and Broadway.
Well, there's a rainstorm tonight. Anybody want to volunteer to go stand over on? I'm just kidding.
Well, Deb, I'm not at my computer, but I actually have pictures of the water coming out of the pipe at 231st Street.
Well, yeah, I believe you on 231st. I was wondering about 225th, because I think that's really where Georgia's seeing a lot of pooling. I mean, she's seeing it the whole way, but 225th and in front of the post office. Wasn't sure if that was also a spot.
Yeah, that is definitely. That Kira took pictures today.
Yeah, it seems to be water running that's catching from the roof since the structure itself. So, okay. All right, so I've got other hands here. So Ed, your hand is up.
No, sorry about that.
That's from before? Okay.
Yep.
Asvali, is your hand up from before? Okay, Neva?
Yes. I think where that school, okay, I'm trying to explain, I'm sorry. Where Reservoir Avenue meets Cedric, there's a little island.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no pathway going from the reservoir side of Cedric to the house
To the governor's side on the west side.
And because cars park in that little V area, they don't know to stop. You basically have to walk through two cars to get to that island, and they don't see a person coming. And it's weird that it's like that, because there's a school across from there, and you would think that they would have a way to get from Cedric to
from the bus stop to the other side. So you'll be happy to know that, so we discussed that intersection last fall, and we passed a resolution, which I can email it to you if you'd like, requesting a study for a pedestrian walkway there. In addition to like just other safety improvements because of turning traffic and because the poor sight lines, and it's still a struggle and dangerous for pedestrians to cross from in front of the grocery store over to the amalgamated side. So I can send you the resolution if you would like.
Maybe you're in the wrong. I'm talking about 231st.
Oh, you're talking. Oh, I'm talking. Okay, I'm talking about Sedgwick.
I think it's not too far from
231st and Broadway.
No, 231st. Did I say 231st? Sorry. Where Reservoir in Cedric. There's like a sea town there, and there's a high school.
The back of Fort 4.
Going from the Jerome Park Reservoir to get to Cedric, there's that little island, but there's no crosswalk there.
It's true.
So there's a light, but it only directs traffic. It doesn't go like, I guess when you're going from Reservoir and you're going north.
You're totally right. There's a yield sign for Reservoir as a turning. If you want to go straight to go north on Sedgwick, there's a yield, and there's a stoplight if you want to go south on Sedgwick, because you're going off onto a different slip lane.
Right. But there's no way, if you're coming from the Reservoir crossing,
to get to the other side.
Basically have to squeeze between two cars because there's no area that's for pedestrians. And then you just step out and cars aren't expecting people to really, I don't think, the yield seems like it's really for traffic. So you won't turn into other traffic rather than people are coming from the reservoir side to get across the street. The
On
only
the
other one you would have to go you either have to go up to Perot or Parrot, whatever.
right, Perrot.
Or down to, does Webb have one of those streets?
No, I mean, then you're doomed because it's very hard to get across Reservoir Avenue on the south end of the reservoir. Like most of the intersections don't have crosswalks. You have to go all the way over to University or Webb, one of them. Yeah.
And does Community Board 8 have the whole reservoir? Or is it just?
Yeah, the Community Board 8 extends to the west side of Goulden. So the east side of Goulden is Community Board 7, and the west side of Goulden is Community Board 8. And then the north side of Kingsbridge Road is Community Board 8, and the south side of Kingsbridge Road is Community Board 7.
Well, what I'm saying may be controversial. They need to put meters on the reservoir because people are long-term parking on the east side of the Jerome Park Reservoir. There's trucks there that haven't moved for months.
Yeah.
And it's becoming auto repair. It's like the place where people go now to repair their autos.
Well, and overnight trailer storage and such.
And they're dumping their auto parts, their gas cans. I've seen them where they dump the used oil into the grass. So, and I think they do have meters where the Lehman College is.
They do.
But they don't.
North of Bedford Park Boulevard, there are meters, and then south there are not.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they really need to discourage that type of behavior because I think that's what's attracting a lot of the trash on that side of when the park opens up, there'll be more trash. But right now, it's become the go-to for people who want to fix their cars.
Okay, all right. User number 2. And then Jody, and then we'll wrap up for the night.
A general, I want to concur about West 231st at Broadway. The pavement, especially on the east side, is bumpy, has lost wavy. It is in bad condition. But my question, a general question is, can you include in all these propositions what Corinne spoke about? For example, pavement that's absorbent. Will the step rehabilitation include green features, terracing, water management? Because I know that, for example, the steps between Kingsbridge Road and Sedgwick that go to this middle school, they've been done at least twice and it's catastrophic. The steps are not aligned, there are different angles, and there's plenty of room on each side to do plantings. So is the rehabilitation going to be green or just the same old thing?
Well, we should add that. I think that's a really good call out, is to add, to include green infrastructure.
So that would be the more permeable covering for roads, the greening of the steps so they hold water more than let it through. And this is a very old flooding at Albany Crescent and West 231st on the side of the Bronx Public House. There's a storm drain there. It drains fine coming from Bailey It has problems now a little bit because the outdoor structure is cluttered with trash. But on the Albany side, there's something which makes the water not go to the storm drain. The level of the street, I don't know what it is, but it keeps the water there and the water is not able to drain in that direction. It's an old one. It's been there for a long time.
So is that, but that's the catch basin itself, right?
But it doesn't seem to be a problem with the catch basin. It seems that the water stays. It seems to be the problem is Albany Crescent. It pools there. You don't see the water going to the catch basin. It seems to be like maybe there's a hollow that holds the water, that it doesn't just
So with
flow.
that, so what I would say is that probably first we need to figure out what's actually going on before we include it on like a budget. Because it's possible that we can it's just a maintenance item. It just needs to be repaired. That's like the most likely scenario. So
Okay.
if you just send the details to the office, and we can look into it and figure out if it's a DEP thing or if it's a catch basin, which would be the Environment and Sanitation Committee, and it can just be a maintenance request, especially if it's just caved in.
I see. No, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Right,
Well, the
thank
main
you.
thing is, will the rehabilitations be greener?
Right.
Thank you.
No, that's a great call out. I'll go through and add that to these requests. And then I'm going to go with Victoria's iPad and then Jody to finish this out.
Yeah, I just have three quick things. I wanted to add the step streets that are at Independence and Palisade that lead to the Spuyten Duyvil Metro North Station. There are a lot of us that use those steps, and they are very slippery and in poor shape. So if they could be leveled out, just to allow us to get to the station easier, that would be great. The second thing,
just to stop you for a sec. So
Sure.
the
Bradley Terrace. It's Bradley Terrace.
It's actually Bradley. Is it called Bradley Terrace?
Yeah.
You know? Okay.
That was on my list, so thank you.
oh, cool. Yeah,
I have
because
more. I have more for that too.
Yeah, I've been complaining about that to Assemblyman Didowitz for quite a while, and I know that the construction of that new building is going on, so it sort of made it even worse since then.
You have no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm a pretty young guy. I literally hold on to the railing there, which is also kind of worn out. And regardless of what type of weather it is, I'm afraid I'm gonna fall down like 5 flights of stairs. So
Steps are short and
can
they've been like that for a while.
So while we hear
Yeah.
Victoria, may I jump in and add since she's typing?
Yeah, sure.
So green infrastructure is already, my building takes care of that, but can you include restoration of the decorative fencing? The Timber Equities, the owner of 2395 Palisade, literally tore out and damaged the iron fence. It's a decorative fence. So I know this is for 2024, but in case they don't do an appropriate job.
So is it decorative fencing that is along Bradley Terrace?
Yeah, there is the handrail that Vittorio mentioned. It is a decorative cast. It looks like it's iron.
So it's like restoring historic, we'll call it historic decorative fencing.
Yes. And I was a little hesitant, which is why I wanted to ask you. I don't know what their cookie cutter solutions are for stair streets, but this has hexagonal pavers in it. It has decorative landings. It's not concrete.
Right. Mhm.
So I
They've
would,
they've been more like they've been more like they've had lots of pavers and decorative patterns. So one would think that they would keep those things.
can
Um,
we put that in some way to,
Just,
yeah.
so I put it, rehabilitate Step Street on Bradley Terrace between Independence and Palisade Avenues, including green infrastructure and restoring historic decorative fencing and hexagonal pavers.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that way at least it's in there and we can kind of argue for it.
Okay, Victoria, go ahead with your other ones, and then I have
Yeah,
two.
these are the other two things I wanted to mention are technically things that have been mentioned before. One of them is the intersection of K-Pop and Johnson. Earlier this week, it was brought to my attention that we are continuing to have some safety issues at that intersection, and I know that they are planning, the DOT is planning to install a traffic light there. We would just ask if at any way possible that could be expedited. There was a video that was sent to me by a resident who lives over there, showing the express buses turning down onto Johnson into oncoming traffic, and it still is a safety issue, because if you're trying to cross there, they may not see you because of the hill. And so the sooner that they can get that traffic light up, the better. And also, if there is any camera or anything that could be installed there to deter people from turning the way that they have been, that would be great as well. And the last thing that I have to mention is,
So so Victoria, for the to just press on the traffic signal.
That's correct. Yeah,
email
the
like
that's
definitely just email your electeds, email the board office, just to like get the word, make it official, kind of, that
Yes,
you're
yes,
advocating for it. We
certainly.
did reach out to DOT and we're waiting to hear from them. And I don't know why it's taking so long. Like it's something that should have been done already. So hopefully it's just in the works and they haven't been communicating instead of not doing it. So
right, yeah, because I had asked,
but I appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the express bus stops at West 230th from Broadway are constantly clogged with the post office trucks that park their vehicles overnight there. It's been a big problem that I had mentioned previously. We got media coverage on it. The Kingsbridge post office on Broadway agreed that they would stop doing that, because we have a lot of elderly people that use these express bus stops, and they are constantly having to be picked up or dropped off in the street, which leads to people almost being run over from the cars that are coming out of the Dunkin' Donut pickup, or whatever you call that, the side little area there. We really would appreciate it if they could stop parking in those bus stops. The bus drivers that have to pick up and drop off there also complain about it a lot, and they've been parking there essentially overnight, as if there is no other parking that they could use on Broadway or elsewhere. They must have somewhere else that they could park their vehicles. And this has become a big problem. In addition to that, we have the ambulance that parked there. I actually got DOT to install a new no standing bus stop right at 230th from Broadway, where the express buses come off and drop off there. And we need that to be clear of those sorts of vehicles.
So this is on Broadway itself or on 230th?
This is on 230th. So as the express buses come off of the Deegan, the first stop is right there at 230th from Broadway. They turn onto 230th from Broadway and then drop off there. And oftentimes, because of the amount of vehicles clogging the bus stop, they can't come in. Delays the service as well. So it would be great if post office especially could stop parking there overnight and at any other time during the day as well.
Okay. I mean, I made a note of it, but also again, like just emailing the board office. I mean,
Yes.
Ed, you're on the call right now. I don't know if you've gotten complaints before about this kind of double parking. issue?
All
Ed's,
the time.
Ed's the chair of the Public Safety Committee, which would be responsible for enforcement of the double parking laws.
All the time, and it gets brought to Captain Gervin in the 50th precinct all the time, depending on where the issues are. So that's an ongoing thing that's never going to end. Well, the only thing you can do is keep bringing it to our attention, and we will keep bringing it to the 50th's attention, because they only have so many officers to go around. So they need, if there's any problem areas, they need to be informed of that so they can pay closer attention to those areas. But they are willing,
Okay.
they are willing to do it, and you know, things have been done in the past.
True. Very good. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Victoria. So just to wrap up for tonight, I wanted to just highlight the things that were new that I added based on previous conversations we've been having. The first one is rehabilitate Van Cortlandt Park South Step Street from Van Cortlandt Park South to Gale Place and create a pedestrian plaza for park entrance. So some sort of way of connecting the Step Street and the sidewalk so that you can get into the park. Install lighting on Marble Hill Lane Step Street from Marble Hill Lane to West 228. Chris is going to check that and make sure that I'm not crazy. Rehabilitate West 229th Street Step from Kingsbridge Terrace to Sedgwick Avenue. And improve, was there something else, Ms. Volley? Or did I just?
I think you were going to add, were you going to also add all the green infrastructure?
Green infrastructure? Yeah, okay, probably. Including additional green infrastructure. Next new one, resurface. We talked about the Kingsbridge Road full depth concrete roadway. This is the feasibility study for stormwater management plan for the Major Deacon Bailey Broadway corridor.
Can you go back up to, did I see one for adding a sidewalk to 235th Street?
There is one in here for 235th Street. Where is it? Well, there's the feasibility study for the Step Street at Independence. Where's the sidewalk? It's down here. There's a.
I thought it was up higher. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. Funding to reconstruct sidewalk on east. Oh, that's 240.
Oh, it's
there
down
it is.
here. It's that first
Yeah,
one. You
provide
didn't-
funding to reconstruct the sidewalk street and add sidewalk on West 235th between Independence Ave and Henry Hudson Parkway. So it's like that short block.
Okay. So I have my two things that I didn't bring up yet. My question was, does that require them to build out the street to its full width?
It shouldn't. I don't know what the full width is, but it should just be, they seem to want to do just enough to be as wide as they need it to be. So it would just be adding sidewalk.
Okay, because we've talked about Edsel Avenue endlessly about stormwater.
Yeah, is there a build out of Edsel Avenue that you want to added here?
So my question,
That would be
I
capital.
don't want Edsel Avenue built out. Although many people want sidewalks, it would require tearing up a lot of green soil, which is like, what's the point of tearing up
completing that street at this point would be a situation where they would likely add sidewalk and such. So yeah, so if that's not what you want to,
So-
that's the the thing I was talking about matching desires with the current DOT policy and programs.
Right,
Yeah.
so, okay, so then I don't want to add Edsel Avenue. Maybe, can we try the repaving of it instead and have them come back and say, I'm just concerned that they're gonna have to mill it because of all the patching that's been done.
So they didn't come back and repave it after DEP was done? DEP just did their patchwork thing and then the plows took it off?
There are, no joke, there's about 20 patches on that road from where that sewer pipe has been leaking forever. And there's the erosion on the edges. So that's again, that's why I'm like hesitant. That might be a capital project because they'd have to remill because the road is actually gone at the edges. But I didn't want it to be like, oh, it's only paved at 32
Yeah.
feet and it's 60 feet wide. We need to take away all
Yeah.
that green space.
Yeah, they don't seem to do that. I mean, really, if it's a paving request, they just want to do it out of operating and just pave it as long as it's within specs, you know, meaning it's within less than 5 years or more
Okay.
than 5 years. So
And
I can
then-
add it to the list for repaving.
Yes, and then the second thing is Independence Avenue, Bradley Terrace, which is the stair street that Vittorio mentioned. If you are coming from the train station, coming up those stairs, you then walk up a very steep one-way Independence Avenue. That street has eroded borders, the same as I've shown you in the video of Edsel Avenue. It's got extremely bad spalling bumps. There's concrete showing under the asphalt.
Do you know if
and-
it's private? I know part of it, like Independence Ave above 240th
So that's what the problem is it is.
or 246th. Yeah.
It is not, it is Independence Avenue. It's a physical road.
Right, but
But
who
as
owns
far
the
as I
roadway?
know, it's not mapped, but it's not private either.
Okay, so it's Independence Avenue then between Bradley Terrace to where?
It's Independence Avenue between Capoc and Palisade. But
Oh,
Independence,
it's the other end. Okay. Right.
but
Yeah, that's-
Independence Avenue also,
Right. That's where it becomes two pieces.
right.
So one
it's
of
the
those is
one-way
probably the
down.
actual map street and the other one is probably some cow path that got paved.
Yes.
And so which, and I mean
The
cow
cow
path
path
in
has
a
to
very
be-
respectable, the most possible, highest respect. Which
The
is it the
one-way down.
north fork or the south fork?
Well, it's more like.
The west fork or the east
Yeah,
fork?
It's east, it's the one way down.
Okay.
But I think, and that's my question, is at one point, is it a capital project if it has to be remilled? Because there's
No,
so much-
they're supposed to remill it when they do it. Like that's like supposed to be part of the regular paving is first they mill
Oh,
it.
okay.
And then they crown it and then they pave it. Like it's, all of that is part of the regular paving.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah. Okay. So.
okay,
that's-
then I'm done, thank you.
No, totally. Thank you. Badly needs paving. All right. So one thing I wanted to call, so let me see, I covered everything. We've got this curb replacement on roadway with high flow rates. We've got the feasibility study to capture water runoff from the overhead train tracks. And then we've got the step streets. And then the thing to point out, if anybody has any ideas, is we don't have, I mean, this is the nature of this committee. We don't have a lot of expense items because a lot of what DOT does is capital. Let me see here. That's what I want. T and K capital. I think this is expense. Oh no, that's my agenda notes. Expense, there we go. So right now, I think for expense items, where's my? There it is. The only thing I got is the thing that remained that was our number 5 before. And now we've got two things. We've got the railing on West 238th Street, Step Street, which is totally missing in spots. We've got and we still have increased funding for the crossing guards at PS 95 and Park. And I'll look up the school, I'll fill that in. But is there anything else as far as expense items? And the reason that a lot of these are gone now is because they're actually doing them. They funded all the pedestrian leading indicators, the chirping things, the pedestrian crosswalks, improving pedestrian safety in general. So those types of things, if there's something missing, we just need to inform them and they'll do it. So if there's expense items, Karen, you got your hand up.
Yes, yes, the expense items will be when they put in all of the green infrastructure on the step streets and the sides of the streets and fixing up all the streets and blah, 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 they're gonna need somebody to take care of it.
Mhm. So
So
is
they-
it appropriate to do like you'd mentioned like a jobs program?
They should do a job, like, so what, the problem, the DEP has people that they have working for them on all their green infrastructure. And so there's like all these groups that are complaining about it because they're in the union and they're under the supervision of the agency, but I think that's okay. You know, if regular people want to, like, not agencies, if regular private people want to build things, then we still need the workforce development so that people can be trained and work on that. But the agencies have to be responsible, just like when they take care of a street or they clean a street or whatever they do to a street or a light, they have to be responsible for the maintenance of whatever they do. And green infrastructure maintenance is a separate thing. It's not just construction, because what they sometimes do is they make them have to pick up, I don't know, something stupid like 50 pounds. They don't need to pick up 50 pounds. They just have to know how to tell the difference between a plant and a weed. It's
right.
a good plant and a bad one. And so, well, what was there and how to take care of it. They don't have to build it. They have to maintain it.
Right.
So, if otherwise, we're going to end up with problems. Who's going to take care of it? We're not going to adopt it. We would, you know, if we live next to it, we might take care of it, but we're not pledging or signing any papers that we're doing that. And that's
Right.
what I think they want to do. So we got to put it in there. That is definitely expense. And they have to train them and they have to supervise them. It has to be a job, you know?
Training and supervision. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That is excellent. So for the committee, what I would ask for the next committee meeting for our March meeting is over here where it says fiscal year 24 rank. If you could just rank both expense and capital and email it to me, I will send what I will do is I will send you this draft. And what I would love you to do is just put what your rank is on the side. And if everybody does that, I will compile them. So that way, at least we have a rough, like if you've given, if like whichever one has the lowest number is got clearly the most ones from people. So I'll just add up the numbers. And so if your number one thing, you know, your number two thing, your number three thing, your number four thing for capital, and then the expense, we have two things. But that way we can at least have a list where it's kind of roughly where everybody ranked it. And then we can start to do some horse trading and figure it out. Because, you know, as you saw, like the capital list is long and really only the top 10 things are like real priorities. So, so please just, if you could, I'll send you where it stands and if you can rank it and then we can discuss it in March. So with that said, is there any old business anyone wants to discuss?
Yes.
Yes, Mary Ellen.
I had brought up at the last meeting, I'm glad that Ed
St.
is
Gabriel's?
on the line with this tonight. I had mentioned St. Gabriel's. Pick up and drop off. It's a disaster. It's an accident or somebody getting killed because these cars are so double parked on each side so badly. The honking, you have old people backing out onto the street.
Right.
235th Street. I mean, emergency vehicles can't get through. It is really bad. I watched some craziness from my window and I even stood with the crossing guard for like 10 minutes. I go, I don't know how you stand here. I was getting a panic attack just watching everything going on. You said you were going to call the 50th precinct maybe.
Well, so I spoke to Kira, I passed it on and I thought she spoke to you.
Nothing was done. Nothing.
But she said she didn't hear anything from the principal's office. I mean, I think at this point, yeah. I mean,
it's really bad. It's really bad. Someone's going to get killed, or somebody having a heart attack or a fire is not going to be able to get through, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, so the board office is trying to get a hold of the school. So if the principal is trying to get a hold of the board office, then just to have them send an email, and I'll remind Kira, I'll check in with Kira again to see what's going on with that.
Yeah,
But I
'cause
know that
it's
she was gonna reach out to you,
dangerous.
and then she was also hadn't heard anything from the principal. That's all I know so far of it.
If
But it's
I
more of a, it's more of
comment
an
on that-
enforcement issue. Yeah.
If I could just comment on that briefly, how the process usually works with issues with double parking, and especially something like this when there's potential danger involved is exactly, it goes through the district manager, they contact the precincts or whatever authorities need to be contacted, and then they let me know, and I'll bring it up at the public safety meeting, and we've actually had pretty good response from the 50th with regards to most of these issues. St. Gabriel's did not come up at our last public safety meeting, which was this week. So if that issue was addressed, I'll speak to Kira about that also.
Yeah, because even the crossing guard has even mentioned it. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, if it was addressed, it never came to my attention because about St. Gabriel's anyway. You're talking about near where the bagel place is, right there?
Yes, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
It's a hot mess.
I'll talk to Kira about that, and then I'll get an email and I'll bring it up. And usually one of the officers will, if it hasn't already been addressed by that point, one of the officers will take note of it and say.
Yeah, it couldn't have,
And
because it's
they've
so
been
bad.
good. They don't just blow me off. I find out that they've followed up on these issues for the most part.
Thank you
Nice.
so much.
You're welcome.
Nice. Thank you, Ed. Any other old business? Any new business? Karen, your hand is up. Is that from before? Karen, is your hand up at all? Okay. Any new business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
Second.
All right, well, so I want to thank you all for hanging into the bloody end. My next agenda will be much shorter. That I promise you. So I will see you all in March. So
March
thank you
17th,
all.
No less. I'm St. Patrick's Day, really?
Oh, is it? No.
Good night,
Is it?
everybody.
Oh, no, we'll figure that one out.
Good
Good night.
Great job, Deb. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Karen.